Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
it comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio.
Welcome back to TexAgs Stacked. I'm Billy Lucci.
Olin Buchanan.
Make a mistake. We're not going anywhere. This is going to be a great program, and we're building it into a great program.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I stand by what we do and how we do it.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
That's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Welcome in, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. I'm David Nuño. He's Olin Buchanan. And we start things off with some sunshine pumping. Apparently that's what we do on the show, OB. Read something that said that we sunshine pump. It was more because of my comment on the Auburn being a potential line in the sand moment for A&M this year.
Okay.
And the poster put, does he not know that Miami was? No, Miami was a huge red flag. Miami absolutely was a huge red flag. And I think the reason I wanted to start off with this because we thought we knew this program, right? We saw the deficiencies that they went after and fixed. What we didn't see is the new ones pop up. That being said, we knew secondary was going to be an issue. We knew that. How big of an issue, we're about to find out. But it was a huge issue in the Miami game.
I did not know the secondary was going to be an issue. I thought the secondary was going to be pretty good. It might still be. I don't know what – I mean, I know it was based on teams running the football so much, but A&M was like leading the country, I think, last year in pass defense. I know it was misleading. I know they weren't that good. But Damani Richardson came back. You know, Jardine Gilbert was a returning starter. Loved what we saw from Bryce Anderson. Tariq Chappelle was back, and then you got a couple of transfers come in that, quite frankly, had done well.
Yeah,
where they've been. I never saw I never envisioned seeing what we saw from the secondary last week.
Well, here's the fact: if the secondary is going to struggle, you better freaking figure out the pass rush.
Yeah,
and if that means putting some edge guys that are faster to create some havoc, and you've got to change with what the formula, you got to change something.
Yeah, because based on last week, and one thing you never want to do is overreact, good or bad,
right?
Especially early in the season, till you know what you are, right, and you're still figuring that out. But if what we saw last week is what they're going to be, then it makes no sense not to blitz and always rush forward. It never makes sense to rush three. I still can't figure out why you do that, but it would never make sense to not blitz or at the very least rush four, because why are you doing it? Why are you keeping 8 back? Well, to help in coverage. Well, where was the coverage last week, right? So your best bet is to be able to produce some pressure, which they have not done.
It's mind-boggling that these things keep coming up. And look, here's the balance to the equation, because we don't want to overreact, if you will. Maybe Miami's really good. The word maybe shouldn't be there, because it shouldn't matter is the way I look at it.
It shouldn't matter. You should not be counting on beating teams because they're bad. You should be counting on beating teams because you're good. And enough is enough.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we lost because maybe it lost to a good team. Big fat deal. You be good. What is the investment for? And I'm talking about not just talking about the coaches' salaries, because every coach makes a lot of money, but I'm talking about all the investment into the infrastructure of the program. What's it for if you're saying, oh, well, yeah, but we lost to a good team? Okay. Yeah, so, be a better team than the good teams. Isn't that what you want? Championship teams are better than the good teams.
What 3 areas, and this is an easy question, by the way, what 3 areas have to be fixed from Saturday? Because we moved on from last year.
Yeah.
And so from Saturday, what are the 3 areas that have to be fixed?
Well, you got to fix the secondary and all that goes with that, tackling and coverage. You've got to fix the pass rush.
100%.
And you still
got to protect.
I don't care what Jimbo said yesterday. He said, well, it wasn't just the offense. Fine. But you've got to do a better job protecting your quarterback. You finally got a good quarterback. I think we all agree there.
Tyler Van Dyke had, 5 seconds to throw? I don't know. It felt like he had an eternity. It felt like, and Connor had 2.5 seconds. There was a difference.
No, heck yeah, there was a difference.
And then the follow-up could be, well, they were sending numbers in the box. And okay, max protect. Do whatever. Do whatever you have to do because you got at least 2 or 3, 4, 5 wide receivers that should beat their man covering them in that situation.
You find the hot guy, the hot route, put it on him. And now Jimbo was saying, well, maybe Connor missed some hot routes. Okay, he's still pretty inexperienced, but you got to get that cleaned up, coach. That's what coaching is.
Well, let's listen to the coach. Jimbo, yesterday you asked him a question about his faith in DJ Durkin. Here was Jimbo's response.
Did a good job right now. We played the run extremely well, played a great first game. We gave up a couple deep ball passes, and we got to get a little more pressure. But DJ's a very good coach. He does a good job and knows what he's doing.
I don't doubt he, quote, knows what he's doing, but I question whether or not he's doing a good job. If DJ Durkin is doing a good job, my question is, what is the definition of a bad job? Because your defense just got roasted. Your secondary, you can't get a pass rush. You haven't had a pass rush last year. Last year you had one of the worst run defenses in the country. The points allowed per game was pretty good, but then you have to factor in, that average is kind of skewed a little bit with 0 points by Sam Houston and 3 points by UMass, that kind of stuff. But again, you can't. Last year, like you just said before, you solve one problem, you think you do, another one surfaces. Mm-hmm. So what does a bad job look like?
Well, there was a follow-up later on in the press conference about Durkin. Here's Jimbo's response to that.
We play the run well. You can play the pass, play both run and pass well. And guys execute and be able to put pressure on what they do. I mean, he knows football. He knows football very well. He knows as much football as anybody. He does a really good job. We just got to execute, and we got to get the calls and put them in the right thing, get the right matchups for our guys on them.
So we've got to get the right calls. We got to get the right matchups. So you're saying that you didn't get the right calls and you didn't get the right matchups. Well, isn't that what the coaches do?
Yep.
So you're doing a good job, but I didn't get the right matchups. I didn't make the right calls, but I got a good job. I see that none of that makes sense to me.
Well, to me, there's blame to go all around, right? Because some of it is on the players. Like, you got to win your individual battles. Damani Richardson was here in studio, and he was like, nah, we got to win these battles.
Look, if you miss a tackle, like a gross missed tackle, take that guy out and say, look, if you don't want to tackle, I'll try to find somebody to see if somebody else wants to. That's also coaching. Find out what motivates your players.
If you want to be a part of the conversation this morning, you can do it multiple ways. You can text us 979-693-1150, 979-693-1150. You can call that number as well. Let's check in behind the glass with Nick Savage. Nick, good morning, buddy.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
What's up?
Oh, nothing much. Just trying to start turning the page a little bit to this weekend. And just looking at the numbers, we're going to have the play-by-play broadcaster for the Warhawks on later. I think it's going to match up nicely for A&M to bounce back. And then even looking on further down the road to Auburn, sucks that game's going to be at 11 o'clock, but I was thinking about it yesterday. I'm super excited for an SEC matchup, but it's going to be, unfortunately, it maybe has a little bit more weight than we expected it to, but I mean, I'm just excited to see that ball game and have an SEC game to talk about.
Here's a message on the TexAgs chat from Calvin. It says, Nuño, what gives you any hope or suggestion that Durkin will change defensive philosophy? It's a rerun of last year. They still use the three-man line too often. You rewatched the game yesterday. You didn't see that, right?
I didn't see that. I saw it at times.
Yeah. I'm okay with it at times.
But I didn't see it often at all. I saw most of the time they were in a four-man front.
Here's the
majority.
I don't care how they do it. Just do it.
Right.
Like, it's that simple to me. Like, I don't care. You have a two-man front. If it works, great. Just give me something that works. And look, I will tell you, I psychoanalyze internally what I do to almost where, like, it's paralysis by analysis at times. Like, but I make changes. When things aren't working, whatever in life, at work, at the gym, life, parenting, I kind of do some self-evaluating. What do I need to change? And maybe a little too quickly. You don't want to wait too long.
Well, the one thing I've learned, not that I already knew, but reinforced was just how good Mike Elko was. Because Ole Miss 31 last year, Florida 42, games like that. Now Miami 48. I mean, at what point do you just say there's a problem? And it's either all the coaches that and everybody involved with recruiting that's telling you how good the players are when they come here are just dead wrong. And yet A&M has players that everybody else in the country wanted.
Mm-hmm. Still want.
Or there's a problem somewhere else. But there's a problem. You can't deny there's a problem. And yes, it is set up for the Aggies to bounce back because you got ULM. Well, that should be. What are we talking about here?
Right.
Hey, we're looking forward to ULM and Auburn. Auburn, which struggled to beat Cal. Look, I get it. You can't take any win for granted with this team, but a home game against Auburn that just struggled to beat Cal, and you're saying, okay, now those are games you should think you're going to go in and boat race your opponent if you're good.
I think you should boat race Auburn.
That's what I'm saying.
I think you should boat race Arkansas.
No. Arkansas is a proud program that has some players.
But I will tell you where I'm if because again, the sample size is too small. If the run defense is that much better than it was last year, I'm not worried about KJ throwing on us.
I am. He's a good quarterback.
He is a good quarterback, but I am more worried about him running and throwing. That's what makes him, I think, an elite-ish quarterback.
Well, he's definitely a dual threat. He's really good. But hey, I've watched him play bombs away with A&M last couple of years. So yeah, he concerns me. Now I would look at their receivers and say their receivers don't concern me, but they're probably the same ilk of Miami's.
Yeah. All right, let's do this. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, where they have liberal cocktails and conservative prices and the finest hot dogs in all of Texas. For more, go to theangryelephantbar.com. Luke Evangelos, hey, buddy.
Hey, David. Good morning.
Good morning, man. You're wearing yellow. You're shaking your head.
Yeah.
You weren't your normal self today when you walked in the studio. I thought there was something like, somebody had kidnapped your puppy. Like you came in kind of somber.
No, just tired. Just my body's recovering from that Miami trip and then school. But I'm back. I'm here. I'm ready.
This is not going the direction I thought it was going to go, Luke. Where's your punchline? Usually you have that smile and there's something funny coming.
No, nothing funny. We're all business. We're getting down to business here. Okay, I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to poke fun at anybody. So I'm just going to get right into it.
Okay.
I've got some Aggies in the NFL news. We had Mike Evans going for 6 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown and a win over the Vikings. Josh Reynolds, 4 catches and 80 yards and a win over the Chiefs. Myles Garrett, 2 tackles, a sack, and a tackle for loss, and a win over the Bengals. And then how about Michael Clemens with the forced fumble late in the fourth quarter to help the Jets get that win over the Bills last night? That was an incredible game.
Big Michael Clemens fan.
Oh, yeah.
Big
Michael Clemens fan.
He was the the first guy that when I got to this gig, I was like, oh, that's an NFL player. Like when I went to that first practice, I was like, oh, this guy's different. Like he's built different. Like, and he's lived up to it.
Yeah, he could rush the passer.
Yeah. Well, Luke, any text messages that we can get to?
You know, there were a lot of text messages this morning. People were getting after it. A lot of praise for OB. OB is on fire. Accountability. I love it. That's what one of the text messages said. What about the running back screens? Seems like we didn't do a really good job at alleviating pressure when a team is blitzing. Where were the running back screens?
I thought we did. I thought in the second half.
Early, especially.
Yeah, we didn't do it in the second half.
On the first couple of possessions, they come in. I think they hit Reuben Owens on.
He had a big 24-yard pickup or something.
And, some to Amari Daniels.
And I thought they did a couple. They did more than a couple in the second half. They had to. They had to get the ball out of Connor's hands quickly.
I always heard throw where the pressure's coming from.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
A couple, but no. A lot of times he was avoiding the pressure, going to the opposite side. Luke, what else?
I've got a text message saying the sky isn't falling. Our loss to Miami came down to 3 offensive missteps. Stewart not converting the third down, Anias's slip, and then Zune's false start on the 4th and 1. Season is still in front of us.
Yep, season is in
well,
I
hope
it's in front of us.
I don't think you just – I'll agree. I don't think you just say, okay, it's going to be a disaster again because you lost at Miami. I'm not saying that. Yes, you're going to win this week, and you should beat Auburn, and maybe you can get it going and go on a run like you did in 2021, except you win those last 2 games that you lost. Had they beaten Ole Miss,
which they should have and could have,
had they beaten Ole Miss and LSU at the end of that season,
they did beat them.
Then you look at it like, wow, look at the way they finished after a bad start. So I'm not saying it can't happen, but I'm saying why are you in a position where you have to be hoping that once again that you can find that you can fix the problems? Why are the problems still there?
How about this? Don't find ways to lose games. Find ways to win games. Because all these games, there's, they give up a kickoff return. They're offsides inside the 5-yard line. Like every game has a reason that you can point to. This last one against Miami, I guess the reason is they couldn't stop anything, right? They couldn't stop a cold in the air. They just couldn't. But there's always a new reason. Ole Miss, there was a turn of events quickly. We know what happened at LSU. Like there's these losses that happen, and just like you can point to. How about you start pointing to reasons that you won?
You won against good teams, and on. Well, think about. I think it was Bronner pointing this out yesterday. So in the last 17 games, which would be equivalent to an NFL season, A&M is 7-10, and 4 of those wins are over New Mexico, Sam Houston, Prairie View, and who was and somebody else. UMass. I mean, that's just what are they?
By the way, I will say this: I'm not going to apologize for believing in these players and having relationships either,
look,
right? Like,
let me say it right now. I do not think the players are the problem. I think you have talent. I think you have a lot of talent.
And honestly, does Mississippi State have a lot of talent in certain areas? Sure.
Well,
does Ole Miss? Sure. They're SEC players, of course.
Yes.
But we have more. So win more.
I'll still maintain this. Every SEC team, with the exception of Alabama, the possible exception of Alabama, Georgia, and maybe LSU, would trade rosters with Texas A&M.
All right, let's hit a break here. We'll come back with Jerry in a moment, not Seinfeld, but we'll come back with that. Obi, it's weird, man. Like, I get a little happier when we get to the Fargo spot, but like, it's just not this like. And this has been in my life, Aggie sports related, or when I was a kid, the Oilers, like whatever season's going on, when my team loses, like things just aren't as good. But then I was like, well, actually, the macaroni kind of makes me feel better.
Yeah, and today is Rib Tip Day.
Oh, that's your day.
Yeah, so it's Rib Tip Tuesday. So trust me on this. Change your life. It's meat dessert for an entree, but you got to call and reserve your rib tips. That's how good they are. You got to reserve the rib tips. They're spectacular, but if you're not into that, look, they got really good barbecue. I had one of the best barbecue chopped beef sandwiches I ever had was at Fargo's. So great food. If you're feeling down like I am, a Tuesday at Fargo's will straighten you out and get your week on a upward trajectory.
We get silly when it's time to get silly, and right now it's business time. We're just telling you the straight facts when it comes to Fargo.
Straight facts,
right?
Yes. If you've got a powerful hunger,
you go to Fargo's.
Fargo's can cover it.
Yep. Look at you. I saw what you did there. 1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan. Without a doubt, the what?
The best barbecue in Texas, which makes it the best barbecue in the world.
That's their trademark because it's
absolutely true.
It's Fargo's. And we are back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Maroon never looks so good with Maroon You. He's Olin, I'm David. It is now, and there's not a long list, time for the Apex Performance of the Week, presented by Apex Health. Feel like you're losing your edge? It could be low testosterone. Increase your energy, sharpen your focus, and boost your performance with a custom treatment plan from Apex Health. Learn more at apexhealthclinic.com. The Apex Health Clinic is owned and operated by a veteran serving the Brazos Valley. OB, to me, look, it's not a day to really, celebrate a bunch of great performances, but Connor Wegman's numbers were solid. They made adjustments in the second half. I give Bobby Petrino credit for trying to find ways to get playmakers the ball. I'd like to see more playmakers get the ball, to be very honest with you. But Connor Wegman, 31 of 53, 336, 2 touchdowns, had the 2 picks. One was definitely not his fault. The other one, last offensive play that they had to try to make something happen on a 4th down.
Right. I thought Connor played really well. I don't think he plays as well as he can. But when you consider all the issues that were going on in protection and how he scrambled a few times for first downs and all the things Connor Wegman did his game as a whole, I thought he performed at a very high level.
He did perform at a high level. And I'm going to throw in one more just because, well, when I say it out loud, it's going to sound ridiculous. I thought Sam Matthews set a tone for the game. Unfortunately, that tone was only for about 8 minutes. But the opening kickoff where he makes the first tackle, and I think they stop the dude at the 10, 12-yard line, whatever it was, I was like, this is how we start on the road. And look, it's not going to be often that Sam Matthews is going to – but I liked that he was the first one there, making the play, making something happen. Unfortunately, it didn't catch on for 4 quarters. It caught on for the first 2 drives.
Yeah, and Jimbo seemed, if you listened closely, he seemed to hint maybe that Sam was out of position, perhaps, on the kickoff return for a touchdown, though.
Yeah.
Remember he said, that and Sam.
Yeah. You got to remind me about that.
Yeah. I thought Edgerrin Cooper played pretty decent.
Yep.
I had about 6 or 7 tackles and recovered a fumble that led to a touchdown. How about Ja'Day Walker? He went out there and blocked a punt.
Yeah. They announced in the press box it was Bobby Taylor, and we had the worst. Can we tell the people?
We had a horrible view.
Yeah, it was not good at all. Like, we could not, is that Bobby? I can't tell. Is that who is it?
It was a terrible view from where we were.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the hotline. Brad, I believe Brad in Brenham wants to talk a little bit about the Aggies. Brad, welcome to TexAgs. How you doing, buddy?
Good morning, guys. Hey, I was just going to address the psychology part of our thought process. Is that it seems like, everything is in place for us to win, but we're not winning. And you can tell the psychology of everyone is, obviously we should be winning these games. Because we always use the term, well, if maybe the Aggies will go ahead and bounce back. But it's like Lucci said, haven't we lost 7 or so straight Power 5 games on the road, and stuff like that? And the team we won against last week was not very good. So we always use the term, well, we'll get bounced back. As if we won like 7 or 8 straight games and we had a bad game and we're bouncing back. But in reality, we're in a bad pattern, and we're really not bouncing back. We need to get out of the rut. But just kind of a different observation, of our thought process that we should be better. So anyhow, guys, I just wanted to kind of bring that to light. Thanks for the call.
Appreciate you, Brad.
He's absolutely right. We're always talking about bouncing back. Well, why are you having to bounce back in the first place? Why not just go out there
and bounce
and put
their face
and put together a good game plan and do whatever it takes to get the most out of your guys and win some freaking football games against good teams, and do it on the road if that's where the game is.
Beat good teams. Let's go to Luke Evangelist there at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Luke, there's a question from Chris Record on the YouTube page that I'd like for you to read, because I think where we are today, it allows me to kind of talk a little bit.
Yep. Recently, so David and Olin said if any SEC team was playing against an out-of-conference opponent, that they would root for their SEC brother. So would both of you root for UT against Michigan? Is that the one?
No. So let me UT as in the University of Texas.
I thought I was very clear. I think even last week I said, I don't care about any SEC team
you did say
except
that.
A&M. Now, I get that if you got to play them anyway, so it's probably better for you if they win, because then if you beat them, it looks better for you. It may, especially when it comes down to the time, if you can, I know this sounds like a pipe dream right now, but if you can get into the playoff discussion, the better teams you beat, the better your resume is.
Yep. So let me address that for a moment. I think UT, speaking of Texas, right? Is
I thought.
Correct.
Yeah.
Not
Because I thought
Tennessee.
that was Tennessee.
Yeah. I don't root for Texas under any scenario unless that scenario helps A&M.
Right.
That's just how, and honestly, it's with the other SEC schools, it's kind of on a TBD. If LSU being 9-1 or whatever the record with 10-1 is going to help A&M when they beat them at the end of the season under the hopeful thinking that we are that program, then I want them to be 10-1. Right? I want whatever's best for A&M. And then there's rivalries involved, right? So I can watch an Bama game, and because it's Bama, want them to lose. But I also can do the thinking in my head it would help A&M if they're, 4-1 when they get to College Station and A&M thumps them, right? Both things can be true. We're sports fans. It's not like black or white unless it's Texas for me. And that's black and white.
Well, to me, it's I'm not going to, or I'm rarely going to root for another team. I tend to root a little bit for Tennessee. I liked them when I grew up, and then when I lived in Tennessee, I met a lot of nice people that, root for Tennessee, right? But if Tennessee loses to Florida this week, I don't care.
Yep.
And I'm sure as heck not going to feel better about myself and my program because Alabama or Georgia wins a championship. I didn't win it.
By the way,
that's like saying you got rich relatives. Well, you're not rich. The relatives are rich. What good does that do you?
And I honestly don't care what happens to any other program except mine at the moment. I am focused on what's going to happen with A&M, and whatever happens out there. He is referring to next year when Michigan takes on Texas.
I know.
And when Michigan takes on Texas, I assume I'll be rooting for Michigan.
I kind of like Harbaugh.
If he's there, because he may win the national championship
rooting
this year.
No, I do not root for SEC teams just because they're in the SEC. I don't get into that SEC like my former co-host in the morning would do. I don't get that. If I live in the trailer park, I'm not bragging because my relatives live in Miramount.
Right.
And right now I feel
nice place to live though.
Oh, it's amazing, but that's where the relatives are living right now, not me.
Right. Yeah. Look, I just care about us winning games, and other than that, I don't care. The other stuff doesn't matter to me, and I usually like for Texas to lose. I mean, and they're good. By the way, are they that good, or is Bama not?
Well, I think it's both. I think Texas is good, and it's frustrating to see that Texas has gotten pretty good pretty fast.
Yeah.
Whereas A&M has been stuck in a just spinning their wheels, stuck in the mud. And again, you ask yourself, why is that?
Yep. All right, let's hit a break here. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, Shireen Williams will be joining us. Right now, we're talking about the Charge Apparel, Aggie-owned, purpose-driven apparel brand. They believe in supporting the U.S. economy and domestic jobs, which is why they manufacture their polos and tees right here in the USA. And I'm telling you, these polos are awesome. Premier fabrics used by the likes of Lululemon and other elite brands. They feature a slightly tailored fit through the chest and the arms out there, designed to make you look and feel your absolute best. Owned and operated by two Aggies, class of 2014, who met in the Parsons Mounted Cavalry. You've got Tucker, a member of E2, and Travis, Squadron 2. And after they graduated, they went their separate ways. One to the U.S. Army, that would be Travis going to the Air Force, and Tucker going to the Army. And 12% of their total sales, not just profits, donated to veteran nonprofit partners with a focus on mental health initiatives. Go check out the website. See all the great clothes. You're going to love it out there. TheChargeApparel.com, or you can find them on Instagram. Kind of scroll through, see what they have. The Charge Apparel, or on X/Twitter, The Charge Brand. It's The Charge Apparel. And we are back, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. People disappointed we're being a little negative. And we gave Connor his props. He was great. I gave Bobby Petrino props for, I think, some nice second half adjustments. But at the end of the day, it's a results business, right?
Yeah. It is. It is, at the end of the day, is a results business, and quite frankly, the facts are the facts.
The fact is we have Shireen Williams on the hotline. Let's go there. Pro Football Talk, Hall of Famer, our good friend. Shireen, good morning.
Good morning to you guys. How are we doing today?
We're okay. Look, you know how it is with football. Like the losses last longer. You have to wait a whole week to get the loss. So I just want you to take you usually have very good perspective. How big of a step back did the Miami game feel like? Or did it maybe just feel like you ran into a good team?
Well, in college football, one loss just seems so huge. Baseball, basketball, you're right. You play again pretty quickly, and you got to play those teams again, probably, in most cases. So you go, okay, we'll get them next time. It's one game. And football just seems colossal when you lose, because you do start out the season with playoff expectations. But when you look at the big picture, every goal is still in front. If they win out, they win the SEC, they're going to the playoff game. I mean, nothing really is lost out of this. I think Miami's really good. I think that Miami-Florida State game is going to decide who goes on and plays probably in the playoff. I just think they're a really good team. They've come a long way in a year, especially that offensive line, which is outstanding. But we just got whipped on both sides of the line. And when you can't get to the quarterback and you can't protect the quarterback, you're in trouble. So they got to get those two areas fixed. If they fix those two areas, this can still be a really good team. Look, the West is up for grabs. I think everyone would agree with that. Any team in the West right now can win the West. So you got to get your mind right, go out and win this game this week and get ready to start conference play. Every goal is still in front of you.
Well, you're right, Shireen, all those things, but I got to be honest. What I took from that is that that you think Miami has become a national championship possibly contender in 2 years.
I do. I thought, and we talked a lot, David and I talked last week or the week before maybe about having a quarterback. I just think that Van Dyke I think he's taken that step to where you have the quarterback and now you have the protection, and I just think they're really good. I think they're, and I didn't think that before that game, but after watching that game, I'm like, this is a really good football team. And they have a chance to do something special. Yeah, I absolutely think they've taken that step.
But I don't. But my take is that in 2 years, Miami has gotten there, and apparently A&M, unless they turn things around, I'm not seeing that A&M is there in 6.
Yeah, I agree with it. Now, they do have more of a veteran quarterback who's played a lot more games. We have to remember how young Connor is. He's still a young quarterback. He still doesn't have that many starts under his belt. He still doesn't have that many snaps under his belt. And, but you're right. In other areas, you think you would have taken that step over 2 years, and they didn't take that step. So, I'm not going to judge them based on one game. I was disappointed, frustrated, all those words that I think every Aggie was after that game. But I want to see some more. I want to see what they can do in conference play against some of these teams. And I just think they have a chance to beat every team left on their schedule. But they've got to play better, obviously, than what they did. You can't turn the ball over. You can't have a false start on 4th and 1. You can't settle for field goals in the red zone. They can't miss field goals. All of those things, the little things matter, and when you don't do those little things right, you're going to end up losing to good teams. When you play a really good team, which Miami, in my opinion, is the best team they will play this year. But when you play really good teams, I think they're better than Alabama. When you play really good, because the quarterback's better, when you play really good teams, you can't make all those little mistakes that they made. And there were a lot of little mistakes, and when you do those things, you're right. I'll go back. I'm yelling at the TV. Miami was ready to Miami was ready to go out of the half. They were done with the half after the first down play. I could tell by the formation it was a running play. I felt like that win. I am yelling at the TV. It's a running play. It's a running play. It's a running play. He's going to hand it off. He handed it off, and once they got the big gainer, then it was on. And to me, that was the turning point of that entire game, was the end of the first half. And how you don't know that that's a running play and stop the run on that play, I have no idea. But once they got that running play, you got the long gainer off of that, it was on, got the touchdown before the half. And to me, that's when the whole entire, to me, the game turned.
Shireen, you have any interest in maybe pursuing a career as a defensive coordinator?
Yeah, I don't think so. It was one play.
Talking to Shireen Williams here on TexAgs Radio. Shireen, what about Texas? Have they arrived, or is just Bama not what we thought Bama could or should be?
I said before the start of the season I didn't think Alabama was very good. And you just look, but by not very good, I mean up to Alabama standards. Yes, they're still a good team, but not up to the Alabama standards. They haven't won a national championship in, what now, 3 years, I think it is? It's been a while. Bryce Young didn't win a national championship with all that talent he had. And I looked at mainly at the quarterback. David, you and I have just talked so much about how important the quarterback is. And I kept waiting for Nick Saban to change quarterbacks. I just kept waiting in that game. Like, your quarterback is terrible. You've got to change quarterbacks. You've got to change quarterbacks, and they never did. So you could see, just how that game was developing, that the quarterback wasn't going to be able to keep up. And again, the best quarterback won that game, which is what we see in most games. The quarterback that plays the best, normally that team is going to win. And that's exactly what happened in that game. Quinn Ewers was a better quarterback, way better than anything Alabama has on their roster. And, I think they're going to, if they stick with what they have now, I think they're going to struggle the rest of the year. I think it's going to be like this, where he's going to make a handful of plays, but is it going to be enough against some good teams? I think they're going to take a few losses. I don't think that's going to be their only loss this year.
Hey, Shireen, how about those Cowboys? How impressive was that start against the Giants?
Oh, my gosh. I imagine that Olin was coming unglued after that. They looked like the real deal after that game. I mean, that was as impressive as anything I've seen out of the gate, 40-0. Preseason didn't matter. The only thing I'll say is the offense didn't have enough possessions, didn't have enough time, wasn't really needed for us to know exactly. I think they're going to get a bigger test this week against the Giants. Jets. That Jets defense is really, really good. Now, they're going to beat the Jets because obviously the Jets don't have Aaron Rodgers anymore. But, that defense is going to give that offense a test. But I want to see where that offense is. But defensively, special teams-wise, this team's really special, and I think offense is going to come around, settle for a few field goals, and I think in the future will be touchdowns. They were impressive as any team out there. 49ers were pretty impressive, obviously the Lions. But you put the Cowboys right in there with contention. They've got a chance to do something special this year.
Yeah, I think go back to your quarterback comment. I think the Cowboys have been good enough to be a Super Bowl contender the last couple of years if Dak Prescott could raise his level of play and not make the loud mistakes. And he had no mistakes the other night. He didn't have to because the defense carried him.
Absolutely, and it was pouring down rain. Pretty impressive that they didn't have any turnovers and forced as many as they did. And when you can win that turnover battle, you're usually going to be in pretty good shape. I mean, even look at last night. I mean, the Bills were the better team once Aaron Rodgers went out. And the only way they were going to win that game is if Josh Allen turned the ball over, like Josh Allen turned the ball over. He handed them the game, and they won it on defense and special teams. So, just exactly what the Cowboys did. It's a good way to win. It makes it easy on your offense. You don't have to force the ball down the field. And he played a really smart game, a little bit conservative, but you could be conservative because of what your defense, because of what your special teams did. If they keep playing like that on special teams and defense, then he's going to better protect the ball. He's not going to take all those chances, some of those chances that he took last year, and he will not have 15 interceptions, and this team will go far. It was impressive. I before the game, I picked the Giants to win that game. I really thought that the Cowboys would struggle coming out of not having played in the preseason like they've done the last 3 years. and they didn't do that. They came out and looked great, and you're right. It had a lot to do with the defense and special teams, allowing the offense not to have to do that much to win that game.
Shireen, let's get to the Aggies in the NFL.
Well, I don't know if you saw my tweet. I'll still call them tweets, but I tweeted at you after the season opening games, and I said Josh Reynolds is going to be hard to beat. And Josh Reynolds was hard to beat. I mean, with that Lions upset of the Chiefs, forget putting an asterisk on. I don't want to put an asterisk on any game. Like Dan Campbell said, that 1-0 doesn't have an asterisk after it. They beat the Chiefs. Josh Reynolds was a big part of that. He led the Lions with 4 catches for 80 yards. His 33-yarder was just huge there late in the game. So he's number one. Nobody beat him. But Miles sure played a great game. Everybody's talking about him. Has a good chance to win Defensive Player of the Year. 2 tackles, a sack, 4 quarterback hits, a tackle for loss. Just outstanding in that upset of the Bengals that they had. So he could certainly be number one. But I thought the Lions' upset of the Chiefs was a little bit bigger. And number 3, he could be number 1 too. Mike Evans had an outstanding game, 6 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown. The upset of the Vikings, 28-yard touchdown. Probably his last season in Tampa, but he's going to go out. I tell you what, he's going to go out in some glory the way he's playing. He looks really good right now, and he said he's going to put the contract behind him. The fact that he didn't get a new contract, will be a free agent after this season, and he's playing. He started off the season really well. A shout out to Justin Matabuke. He had a sack, and the Marvin Leal had 3 tackles, a quarterback hit, a tackle for loss. Leal will be a bigger part of that Steelers defense with Cam Hayward out for a while, so look for him to get a lot of playing time coming up.
That is Shireen Williams, Pro Football Talk. Shireen, great work as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
All right, enjoyed that conversation with Shireen, and just feels better when they win. That's just the bottom line, guys, and that's why the vibe in this show hasn't been so fun, but it's all right. Let's see what happens over the next couple of weeks. Right now, let's talk QC Kinetics. They can change your life. You can live again without that chronic joint pain and without drugs or surgery. That's the beauty of it. They use this advanced regenerative medicine. They take your body's own concentrating healing properties and they put them right back into your joint to restore and repair that damaged tissue that's causing all that horrible pain out there. The patient satisfaction reports are astonishing. Finally, yay! A real alternative to the old ways of dealing with the pain. And the beauty here is, unlike surgery, there's no downtime with QC Kinetics, right? With QC treatments, you're going to be in and out quickly. If you have constant pain in your knees, your hips, your shoulder, or your back, you need to call and get a free consultation from the medical professionals at QC Kinetics today. Imagine this fall moving around pain-free, doing the things that you love again, walking, hiking, playing with the grandkids, jump roping over there at Milliken Reserve, wherever, right? Call QC Kinetics and see how the latest advances in precision regenerative medicine can attack your pain and bring you all the lasting relief. Now is the best time to get it all started. Call them up, 979-452-6000, QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That is 979-452-6000. feel good about this weekend, A&M football. I'm going to be happy on Monday.
Oh, I'm not saying I'm going to be happy Monday, but I know that A&M
Happier?
Yes. I know A&M's going to win this week, even though, like I said, I believe it was the last time ULM came to town, they almost won.
By the way, we are TexAgs Radio. I bet you knew that.
I did know.
We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, and we're in the Rollo Insurance Studio.
Yes, we are.
And this is the closing minutes of the Go Hour, which is presented by the
warehouse at CC Creations.
You've gotten so much better at that. You are really good. And now we're going to go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center because Luke has got people who are complaining about things that are football related, not football related. Any happy text messages to report, Luke?
Honestly, not at the moment. But I do have a very interesting text message from Mike in Decatur. He said, this team needs to find this in-your-face, intimidating, take-no-prisoners attitude that we had under Jackie. We seem to have lost it over the years and wilt against any team that does have it.
I like it. Ader from Decatur, county seat of Wise.
Somebody texted the show that, hey, you got to be careful. The players are probably listening. I don't think any of our angst has been at the players.
It's not, but,
I had Damani here, and I had to ask tough questions. And he answered questions. I thought he was excellent.
Are you worried that your players were how would a criticism after a loss, after a 48-33 loss, how is that going to affect the players? Is it going to make them what? Are they going to play poorly?
So if my kids get a C on a test, my job is to ask questions why and what we need to do to fix it. It's no different in sports. Sorry.
But what if they've continually gotten the C?
Then we've got to change our approach, and we got to find a different tutor, or that you change.
Yes.
And they changed offensively. They did.
Yeah.
I don't want to wait a year to change defensively.
Mm-hmm. Can't afford to.
Nope. Thank you, Obi.
You bet.
When we come back on TexAgs Radio, Jaime McCoy, Jamie McCoy going to join us. We got a loaded 9 o'clock hour. Jamie Morrison right after him, the KBTX Roundtable, and I'm sure a bunch of pleasant text messages at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. It is TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. I know our next guest, even when times are tough, puts me in a good mood. He's got a smile usually. He's usually in a good place. He has perspective. Let's go to the hotline and talk to Jamie McCoy, former A&M tight end, and, of course, played some time in the NFL. Jamie, good morning, buddy.
Good morning. How you doing today?
I'm okay, man. I'm okay. Well, no. Look, the world is not terrible or anything. Like I just kind of wanted a different vibe this week after the Miami game. I can handle a loss. I just don't like the way A&M lost, Jamie.
Oh no, I feel you. I totally the same thing. Like I said last week, I thought if we were going to lose, it would be to them trying to run it down our throat, and lo and behold, they aired us out, and seemed like we couldn't do anything to stop the bleeding. But it's just one loss, and we can try to right the ship this week.
All right, so I got to ask you, in your career, college, NFL, you name it, right? Like, how often or have you been able to, and I know you've had some rough teams at A&M, I know that, right? But, like, these early non-conference losses or early losses, how often did they define the kind of team that you were?
It's not so much defining the type of team. You got to know what type of guys you got in that locker room. Because like I said, only one team is going to hoist the trophy at the end of the year. And it's not like you end the year and you got 8 undefeated teams. So I'm hoping that we can take this, take all the negative that we had from the game and use it as a learning tool and, somehow try to find the positive in what should have been a great win for us. That win would have put us in great position. It would have put us exactly where we needed to be. So I'm hoping we could find something out of this. All
right, Jamie, I know you're good at finding positives. I mean, it's going to get to the negative part at some point, right? But just give me some of the positive you saw, the good, if you will, from Saturday.
The good. First off, Connor, I think is that dude. I love his poise. Even it seemed like they were heads on fire coming after us, and we weren't doing the same to them. So positive was Connor. Connor looks to be that guy. We almost had 40. If we can put up 40, I think we can stick with any team that we're going to play this year on the schedule. Second positive was Jake Johnson seemed to make his presence known at tight end. Great job blocking, made some good catches. Let's see, receivers made some good plays. Running back so-so. Gosh, what else was another positive? I would say maybe D-line. But it's not enough on defense. And we'll get to that. But I'd say D-line, tight end, and quarterback were my positives from the game.
All right. D-line, there are some negatives about them, but we'll get to them here in a moment. I did want to kind of follow up a little bit on tight end. You mentioned Jake a moment ago. Good to get him going, man. Like he's going to be hopefully an integral part of what they do, especially when people are coming after Connor. He's got to get it off quickly.
Absolutely. Here moving forward, I like to see us get it in his hands quicker, even if it's just something short, 2-3 yard pass. He seems to be the type of guy that once you get some confidence brewing in him, let him see himself catch 1 or 2 early. I think it'll be a big deal. With as tall as he is, we got to get him as a presence in the red zone and, downfield strikes. So I like to see him come into that role. But his size is, again, something that you can't coach. And it looked to see that he clearly made the step as the next guy up.
Talking to Jamie McCoy here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Anything offensively you didn't like?
Let's see. I would like to.
I'll give you one. The line.
Yeah. Well, see, to me, I think that was more out coaching. Or not necessarily out coaching, but they were bringing it to us.
Okay.
They were. It wasn't just like they were just depending on their D-line. I saw them bring a few corner blitzes. We were running into the boundary. They brought a corner blitz 2 or 3 times. I saw linebackers blitzing. It seemed that Connor, even with the great throws that he made and great catches receiver made, he always had to be on the move. He was always under duress. Where the Van Dyke guy, to our discredit, he was back there just having a field day. I hated seeing us in zone coverage three guys over here in the middle of the field, but nobody's on anybody, and he's hitting the wide open guy on the sideline. It's like, instead of putting him in space, come after this guy and everybody man up. Get your guy and let it be known, hey, this guy's making a catch on me. So I hate to see it, but I feel like we got out coached in that aspect. I don't put it all on the O-line. I think it was just them being aggressive coming after us, which is what you got to do. I want us to do the same to opposing teams.
And what about offensively, Miami? They were aggressive attacking the secondary.
Well, I wouldn't even call it so much aggressive. It was us not tackling. There were so many times where they would make a catch. We were in position, granted. Hey, guy made a great catch, but you're right there. Don't let the play go any further than that. It was times, 2 or 3 times at least, where if you just make the tackle, hey, we live to fight another day. Maybe we hold them to a field goal. But I looked up, there was a 75-yard 5-play stretch, like a minute and 20 seconds. 75-yard 6-play stretch, 75-yard 7-play. It's like they're scoring too quick. What are we doing? We're not blitzing them. We're just missing tackles and being too conservative, just letting them have their way with us. And we got to bring the fight to everybody that we play. That needs to be our identity. I wish it was our identity.
Talking to Jamie McCoy here on TexAgs Radio. I don't understand, and help me understand, right, the tackling part. Because there are different schools of thought, and I think maybe all of them were in play. You're in the wrong position, which makes it hard to tackle. You try to arm tackle. They just wanted it more. I don't know. Like, what is it? Is it a bunch of things? Is it when it comes into tackling and then it becomes contagious? It's not just 1 or 2 guys.
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know what you credit it to, because I know that the defense coordinator isn't out there saying, hey, don't tackle these guys. Just if you don't get the interception, just let them go. I know that that's not the case. I like to chalk it up to I like to play basketball. When I'm playing, I'm not the best shooter, but if I'm just sitting there shooting before a game starts, I can just sit there and hit a shot. But when the game is going and there's live bullets flying, it's almost like you just get rushed a little bit. So I think it might have been a little bit of, oh, I'm trying to make this play. I see that the quarterback threw it at me. I missed that, and then they just end up not getting anything. So just sucks to see.
Yeah, it does suck. Let's talk defensive line, because they're stopping the run. Awesome. We took care of a problem from last year, at least so far. They're not getting the QB though, man. And Tyler Van Dyke had time. Connor did not have time. Tyler had time.
And that goes right into my last point was we have a great D-line, and we need to let them be great and be great against the guy in one-on-one. You do that by bringing more than they can block. If they got 5 people in blocking, you bring 6 or even 7. Granted, you're putting your defensive guys on an island, but at the same time, that quarterback is rushed and doesn't get to set his feet, you kind of make him guess. You make it look like you're blitzing and you pull some guys out. You drop some guys in the zone coverage. You got to do something. So, granted, we don't have a Von Miller out there right now. I feel like our D-line is built on run stopping. We got some size and strength. But that's not to say that these guys can't get to the quarterback. I think we're just not putting them in the best position. We're saying, hey, our 4 can beat your 5 when that hadn't been the case yet. It needs to be our 5 against your 5 or our 6 against your 5, and you're gonna have to get the ball out. You got about 2 seconds to get rid of it, or it's gonna be an interception or a sack. So hopefully we get a little bit of that mentality going forward.
Jamie, there's still a lot to play for, and even though it feels like I think this is a sign of things to come. Why were you optimistic about this team? Just give me the why, and then I'll follow it up with something.
Okay, I'm optimistic about this because everything that went wrong for us can be fixed. Last year, our offense was 13, 15, 6. It was hard for us to break 20. We were up there in 33, and we left more points out there on the board. So I'm optimistic because tackling can be fixed. You can scheme up and dial up some pressure. There's stuff that we can do to get out of this hole. So I think all of our problems are fixable is the main thing.
All right, so the secondary, you think that the issues that we saw there can be fixed by dialing up some pressure?
I think so, absolutely. You saw last night in the game it sucked to see Aaron Rodgers go out so early, But Jets are coming after Josh Allen, and when you're coming after a guy, you get those errant throws. You get a guy thinking that he can put it in a window, and he doesn't see a safety that's dropping in coverage or that zone look that I'm talking about. Yeah, I really do think it can be fixed.
At what point during the season do you feel, and look, it's not the same for every team, but is it 3 weeks in? Is it a month in? Is it when you start conference play? When do you know a team? Like this is who you are. Because last year, the team we saw against App State, the second week of the season, was who they were.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that the team we saw this past weekend isn't the team that they're going to be. So at what point do you usually feel comfortable saying, this is who this team is?
I get what you're saying. I don't think that's necessarily the case. I don't think this is who this team is. Like I said, a lot of stuff can be fixed. I think we'll know who this team is the next time we're faced with adversity. The next time, I think this weekend should be not so much an easy game, but we should come away with this, not stressed out at the end of the game. And then I've watched Auburn. Granted, we hadn't beat Auburn the last couple of years, but I think Auburn is a very winnable game for us, especially at home. You go to Jerry World, I hadn't even seen Arkansas play yet. But somewhere in that window between Auburn and Arkansas, we're going to find out what we have. I don't think it's going to be Auburn. This is just me, the optimistic Jamie. I think we're going to beat Auburn fairly easy. I think Arkansas is always a toss-up in that fourth quarter, who has the ball last. So hopefully we're not in that position, but I think in the next 3 weeks we'll know who the Aggies are.
And then Alabama, who doesn't seem like Alabama at the moment, right?
Not at all. My neighbor, big UT guy, him and his family, I told him, hey, y'all won, granted, I'm going to give y'all credit, but that's not the same Bama from years past. I couldn't even tell. I couldn't name. This is the first year outside of, I knew the number 3 wide receiver from plays he made in years past, but I didn't know anybody on Bama's team, and they just don't seem to have the same zest that they've had over years past. It's always like, oh, well, they're about to get a turnover. They're going to do something here. And they just don't, it just didn't seem to click for them like it normally does.
Jamie,
granted, Texas may be a good team too.
Yeah. But I think that's what makes this even more frustrating, right? Is that Texas in a down conference that is maybe looking better than the SEC at the moment, but in a down conference might have found their stride. A&M, there's an opportunity there. There's an opportunity for anybody. Mississippi State, Ole Miss. The West is potentially open, right? Like with the way Bama seems wounded, I think LSU might be wounded as well. This is a great opportunity to be a jump off point, right? And right now we're still in limbo. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. See, we're in limbo, but like I said, I think everything is ahead of us. I think you have Wigman come out here this weekend, get a nice moves, Noah, all the guys involved. I think your defense goes out and gets some stops. Granted, you come back against Auburn, start off our conference play. If we can have a dominant effort against Auburn, maybe we're outside of the top 25. We just need to get back in the conversation. And I don't think we're too far removed from that. I seriously don't. We beat Auburn, we beat Arkansas, and have Alabama come back into our place, beat them. It's still there. It's still there for the taking.
Jamie, I appreciate your optimism. Let me ask this: what were your preseason aspirations? Or not aspirations, expectations. Were you thinking this is a potential 9-3 team? I forget what yours was, but I think most people were kind of in the similar ballpark, waiting on the double-digit wins based on what we see early on. Where were you?
I was 9-3, hopeful for 10-2, but prepared to be 8-4 logically, but I was on that right in the middle, 9-3.
I was 9-3, teetering closer to 8-4 than 10-2.
Okay.
And I didn't even figure out which games they're going to lose. I just figured there's going to be a couple games that they shouldn't lose that they'll lose because that's what we seem to do.
Yeah.
So with that all being said, are those expectations still possible in your mind?
I absolutely believe so. And granted, I know it sounds cliche coming from the eternal optimist, but it's there. Beat LM, beat Auburn, beat Arkansas. That's 4-1. Then you got Bama and Tennessee. If you can win one of those two, go on by and handle the Mississippis, I think we're there looking at LSU at the end of the year, who could be 2 or 3 more games down. and it's there for the taking. Maybe we can win the West.
And that seems like a Deion Sanders moment where we're going to look at the receipts if that happens, right? But there's a lot that has to happen before that, right? Like that is a major ask, especially considering, like I told this to OB. I respect KJ Jefferson. I really do. I think he's a really good quarterback. But I am, based on what I've seen from this year's team, I'm not as worried about KJ as I am about maybe Joe Milton. And I don't know if I would have told you that before, because Joe Milton can throw. And that seems to be this team's issue this year. Like, I think the running quarterbacks, I think A&M, I don't want to say can handle, but I'm not as worried about that as somebody who can air it out the way Tyler Van Dyke did.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, granted, we're going to have to see how the season pans out. I don't see Van Dyke as that guy. Granted, he made the throws that were presented to him. You take what the defense gives you, and I felt like we gifted him all of that. He was never under duress, and the times that he was under duress, it was an errant throw. So we got to be that. So take away all my optimism. If we come out there rushing 3 down linemen, 4, and not bringing pressure, we're not going to do any of the things that I just said. If we come out and become aggressive, let that be our identity. Let those big boys up front cause havoc, and they just need 1 or 2 disguises. Show a corner coming off the blitz and let them go back, but give the quarterback something to worry about. So if we can be aggressive, optimism all the way. If we stay stagnant like we were this past weekend, we'll lose 2, 3, 4 easy.
All right.
We can't let those guys pick us apart.
Let's close it with this. If they're a middle-of-the-pack defense, even a little bit more to the bad side, let's say 70th-ish in that range, right? But still, all the things that you think can happen, right? Like, I don't want a 70th ranked defense. Don't get me wrong, but I'm saying what we saw was horrendous in the aerial attack. If you get to the middle of the road, and there's a big if, then are those things still possible?
I think so, because our offense is potent. We still haven't even got our running game fully dialed in. If we get to the point that we start getting 100, 200-yard rushing games with this aerial attack that we have, I think we're dangerous. And at that point, to what you just said, we can outscore you at that point. If we can get 2 to 3 stops a game, I think that we can outscore teams. But we just need to be aggressive. I like us getting back to that the A&M team we had 4 or 5 years ago. We need to go get an early lead, 7, 10, 14 points, and then start running down your throat and putting pressure and making them have to air us out, but with pressure. So we'll see.
Jamie, great stuff, man. Thanks for your candor. Appreciate your time.
No problem at all. Thank you, David. Giggle,
man. See you soon. Jamie McCoy on the hotline. God, I like it, man, because OB and I were kind of grumpy this morning, and then Jamie brings out some positivity, but also realistic possibilities, right? He ironed it out. Appreciate Jamie there. All right, right now we're talking Chance McClain and Heritage Films. YourHeritageFilm.com is the website. You know about Chance, right? He does these awesome documentaries, these incredible documentaries about families. I think the Jamie McCoy documentary would be awesome, right? It'd be talk about his time at A&M, his time in the NFL, and then his ventures afterwards. That would be so cool to see. He's kind of famous, so he can probably get a documentary anyway. But if not, he can call Chance McClain up, and then his kids get to see his story. Dad, you were that good? Yeah, I was that good. And then you played quarterback too back in the day? Yeah, I used to play quarterback. That story would be a cool one. But it doesn't have to be just about Jamie McCoy. It can be about you. It could be about your dad, your grandfather. And how about the Year Flicks, which is an option under the Heritage Films umbrella that allows you to do these 20-minute versions of these stories for kids, benchmark videos to kind of find out a little bit more, Q&As done in a real lighthearted kind of way that you're going to love. We did it for my daughter. It was awesome. The website, again, is YourHeritageFilm.com. YourHeritageFilm.com, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341. And we're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Bad Bunny in the background. I'm sure Jamie Morrison asked for it as he's here with us. What's up, man?
Not much. Good to be back. It's a good way to start my Tuesday.
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you coming in. Let's talk about the weekend overall, the vibe around it. You had Utah State a win, UNI a win, and then TCU the first loss of the year. Just talk about the entire weekend.
Yeah, I think the first thing is I think everyone was left with the feeling, and I've just worded it like when I won a silver medal at the Olympics, and you always feel like you won a silver medal like 4 weeks later, but you feel like you lost. And we kind of had one of those weekends where we had 2 really, really good matches. And then we played a really, really good TCU team who I think has kind of been trying to put the pieces together for the season, and it happened, unfortunately, against us. But we learned a lot of things from the match. We talked a lot that night. We talked a lot yesterday, just a little bit more about who we're going to be, a little bit less about what we're going to do on the volleyball court. So learned a lot of things from that. But overall, really successful weekend. We're 7-1. We're sitting in a good spot, got 2 more matches, and then headed into SEC play.
Well, I want to talk about it, but I want to specifically talk about the 12th man showing up.
Yeah.
And last week here in studio, you talked about like you want to create this atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I think people are catching on, right?
Yeah, you're starting to feel it. You're starting to, and even in the press conference afterwards, someone's saying that like they feel a buzz around campus, around our program. And I don't know the best ways to get out there, so I'm going to do it here. I did it at a press conference. I'll probably send some stuff out on social media, but just a huge thank you to the 12th man and different pieces of it. And I thought on Thursday we had a match against Utah State, and it was our fish camp night, and just the amount of students that showed up in our student section, it was just awe-inspiring to look up there and see that many people, but also have them be vocal, have them be involved in the volleyball match. And then Friday showed up, and we had a lot of families and a lot of former students that were showing up on the other side of the stands. And it was just, I don't know, awe-inspiring to look in that direction. And the thing that just, I walked out on Saturday, and our match started at 4, the football game started at 2:30, and I'm like, no one's going to be here. And I understood it. Like, football's king. And all of a sudden I walk out, and an hour before a match, there's a decent crowd. And then our match starts, and there's, I think, 1,800 people there. And it was just an honor that people would choose to come watch our program when a football game was on. So the one thing I've just said is, how do we get people back? And we're trying to provide an entertaining atmosphere, both with some music, both with the way we play. We talk a lot with our team about that, of, hey, if we're going to have people show up, we got to put on a show. So we're going to continue to do that. We got 2 more chances this week against Houston, against Liberty. It's Houston on Wednesday, Liberty on Friday, and then we get going with SEC play next Wednesday at home against Mississippi State.
One of the things that I was telling you earlier that I just love is that the students are having ownership in this, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's let's show this tweet from Luke, because Luke, who works on this show, I didn't know he was going to do this, but he tweeted this out. I'm back, and I don't think you can see the part that he said, but he said basically pack read. Luke, you do support. I'm giving you props here, but you have taken ownership in trying to support all Aggie sports. You and some others.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing better to do than to see your fellow student, and especially with how much work the student athletes put in, just seeing your fellow Aggies succeed and being there to support them. So if you haven't gotten the chance to yet, make sure you come out to read. I was absolutely blown away with the atmosphere. The DJ was incredible. The energy, the fans were so into it. Like, y'all got to come out and see this team. Absolutely incredible atmosphere. Great coaching. There's a little movement going on with chef hats and letting him cook. There was a big sign there in the student section. So
I did make a promise to the student section that if they continue to show up, I'll wear a chef hat for warm-ups. So
incredible.
That one's going.
Yeah, and it's not. I mean, Henry Coleman was tweeting about it, so like it's catching on, and I love, and you guys are backing it up, which is what's been fun about.
No, 100%. I got to give Henry props, and just my first day on campus, I was walking around, and I think they were walking out to practice or something, or maybe it was even a game. I don't even know what it was. I just remember it vividly that like Henry stopped in the middle of his entire team and just shook my hand. One, I was taken aback by his hand, engulfed my hand, and I have pretty large hands. But the second thing, he was like, "Hey, Coach, welcome to Aggie Land. Like, we're really, really happy to have you here." Knew about who I was, and it was just my first moment of kind of feeling the Aggie spirit. And it made me, and I get chills as I'm saying it right now, it just made me feel welcome. And hats off to Buzz and kind of what he's established with the culture of his team, but Henry especially, of just the welcoming kind of guy he is, and it made a huge difference. And we went back and forth on Twitter a couple times, but amazing human being, amazing team. Awesome to have them in the house supporting too.
Yeah, no doubt about that. 7 straight to start the year, tied for the 3rd best start in program history. That's 48 years.
That's crazy.
Just what a run to start. Look, I know you have way more things you want to accomplish, but setting the foundation and getting early results.
Yeah, and it's the way we did it too. And again, I don't think it was a fluke. I think we're playing really, really good volleyball. I thought we were a little bit gassed maybe in that last match against TCU. But we're looking forward to getting the top 25 opponent in Houston in the house on Wednesday. And we've just talked about these are opportunities for us to get tested, to get pushed is what we need. And we want to go to the tournament. We want to make a run. And the one thing we've talked about is these are our opportunities to get that pressure that we need every single minute of a match. So we're looking forward to Wednesday and Friday against a really good Liberty team.
Can you talk a little bit about adjustments and being able to beat teams multiple ways?
Yeah, I think we talked before the TCU match. We were the only team in the country that was top 10 in our hitting efficiency and then our opponent's hitting efficiency. And those two are really, really important statistics. It's basically how well our offense is humming and how well our block and defense is humming as a unit. So I just think we got into, the beginning of the season and our offense was just annihilating people. And maybe their offense was doing okay, but we were so highly efficient that we were able to win volleyball matches. And then we got into this weekend a little bit, and we had worked on it, and somewhat like a leaky ship. All of a sudden, you plug one hole, and another hole starts kind of leaking a little bit. But we worked on kind of some blocking things, and it ended up setting a program record. It seems like every weekend we're setting a program record right now, but for blocks in a match.
14.
That's I don't know. The weekend before we had 82 kills in a match, and I'd never seen that. I don't know if I've ever seen 14 blocks by an individual in a match, let alone a 3-set match. So we're able to kind of do it the block and D ways also. So we want to put those two, obviously, superpowers together into one as time goes on here, and be able to do both of those, of have our offense humming and our block and D humming, which is our goal this week.
I found out, by the way, SEC Defensive Player of the Week. So
yeah.
Major props there. This week, you got some matches. You got Liberty on Friday, but midweek game against Houston. Houston's a top 25 team.
Yeah, Houston's 21-22, somewhere in there, and a really, really good volleyball team. And again, just a chance for us to kind of be pushed and be put under pressure. And the biggest thing that we've talked about is needing to push back for maybe 2.5 straight hours. If we go 5 sets of that culture of, hey, we're going to grind in this regardless of how good of our opponent is.
How important, and nobody wants to lose, and please don't mistake what I'm saying, but sometimes losing is the best thing to move forward.
No, 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it wasn't like I got done with the match, and it's interesting. My assistant coaches had asked, like, "Hey, what are you going to be like when we lose?" And for me, like, I hadn't really lost in a while. Actually, it was a weird feeling because USA stuff, we'd gone undefeated, and I was okay with it because I thought we learned lessons within the match. So I think we lost just because we lost sight of who we were for 2 sets, and then we regained it in the third. And the one thing I talked to our team about is that that's okay because we did it. We just need to do it earlier the next time we get into trouble. So I don't like losing. I don't think it's a reset thing where we needed to kind of have our priorities set straight. I think our team is working hard every single day in practice right now. I think the reason why I'm okay with it is we learned a lesson within the match, and I think it'll help us on Wednesday and further ahead in the SEC and hopefully in the NCAA tournament.
And hopefully we continue to pack Reed, right?
True that. Again, just big thank you to everybody that's listening that might have been in our volleyball matches from the 12th man. It's, again, a big reason why I'm at this university, why I came here, and it's cool to see it coming true, that we're going to be able to get a crowd in here and get people supporting our volleyball team.
Jamie, I appreciate you, sir.
Appreciate you as well.
Thank you very much. Right now, caller number 1, we're going to give you a free car wash from Aggie Land Express Car Wash in South College Station off of William D. Fitch in Greens Prairie. They are Aggie-owned and operated with the friendliest staff here in Aggie Land. Make sure you call them up and go visit them at Aggie Land Express in South College Station. Call 979-693-1150. And we're back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. KBTX Roundtable.
Woohoo.
Hello, Tyler.
Hello. Good morning.
Tyler Shaw's in the house. Nicole Griffith. Hello.
Good morning.
So you tried to call me out a second ago.
I didn't try calling you
we're,
out.
We're putting it out on the radio.
I just heard that you were a little cranky this morning, and McCoy kind of
He made me feel better.
made you feel better.
He did make me feel better. Here's the reality of it. That's not what I was going to call you out for, or you called me out for. You were like, last year you did say if they score a touchdown more, mathematically.
Yeah, but you seemed really eager for it, and so I just feel like you were more of the 10 win than the 8.
No,
win.
I've been 9-3 is best hope. I mean, was there a path in my mind to get? Yeah. Look, I'm going to go ahead and be honest with you. Alabama's down.
Let it out.
Alabama's down. That's a fact.
Yeah.
LSU, you already beat them with one of your worst years in years, and I don't think they're all that either, right? Ole Miss, they've owned you the last 2 years, but they lose to everybody else in the SEC. They lose SEC games. Mississippi State, unfortunately, loses their head coach. They look pretty good right now. They haven't played anybody yet. Arkansas, you've beat them 10 out of 11 years. I don't care who's the quarterback, right? You've beat them 10 out of 11 years. So there is still that entire path there. What I did not expect is what Jamie talked about a moment ago, a leaky ship. I didn't expect the leaky ship to be, I thought, well, if you fix 1 or 2 issues, 3 more aren't going to pop up like Gremlins. That's probably before your time. You guys ever see the movie Gremlins?
Yes. Yeah.
You've seen Gremlins?
Sure.
You haven't seen Gremlins?
No, explain.
They were really weird.
If you got them wet, they would multiply, right?
Yeah.
You don't know about Gremlins for reals?
Oh, I thought you were talking about a movie.
Yeah,
it is a movie.
Yeah, they're not real. There's not real gremlins walking around the world.
Not yet.
It's a good Halloween movie. Maybe October.
But I did not expect that. I did not expect that if you fix the offense and you fix the run defense, which so far it looks like they have, that the back end would look as bad as it's looked. So yeah, I'm at fault there, at least in one game versus Tyler Van Dyke. And there was no pressure put on the quarterback. I expected more growth there. Is it a scheme thing? Is it a development thing? Is it Miami just did it better, coaching-wise? That's what the whole season we're going to figure out.
Right.
But the narrative last year, if they would have scored more touchdowns, and that's any team, by the way, and I did switch midway. I would say some point after March or April, I was like, you know what, though? That's any team in the SEC because Alabama had a bunch of games that came down to 3 or 4 points. LSU had a bunch of games that came down to 3 or 4 points. We all could score. But the fact that A&M only scored 22, that's the issue.
Well, it goes both ways, though, because, I mean, the Arkansas was an oink-doink win. That obviously could have very easily been an Arkansas win. And then...
But wait. We missed a field goal, too, right before.
Yes.
So, they missed a field goal, but we had missed one 3 minutes before that.
Right. And to play devil's advocate, how many times is Damani Richardson going to score the way he did, ripping it out of his own teammate's hand with... KJ Jefferson fumbling at the goal.
He has the knack for touchdowns. I'll give him that.
Yeah, that was just a wild game.
Yeah.
I'll say that. So I'm just saying it goes both ways. But yes, they had a lot of close losses. I mean, and the sky is not falling. This one loss to Miami. I think that's the biggest thing right now is the sky's not falling. This is week 2. And like you said, the West is wide open, is it not?
Well, from my experience, I've been here for 2 seasons. And so
you and I both.
I know that the second week is supposed to be a loss. So it's not supposed to be, but we had App State last year and Miami this year. So I'll be honest, I didn't get to watch the second half of the game.
Yep.
I was down at Prairie View getting video. They were playing Abilene Christian, so who A&M plays later in the year, getting some ACU video. But when I turned on the radio broadcast, I hear Andrew Monaco going, "Special teams giveth and taketh away."
Right.
And so I was like, oh no, what just happened? So, you see the kickoff return or punt return for the touchdown. And then I don't think the sky is falling. I wasn't in the camp of 10 wins or 9 wins. So I do.
What camp were you on? 7 wins?
7 to 8.
Okay.
Leaning more 8. I just feel like it's hard to go from 5 wins all the way up to 10. Give and take a touchdown every game.
Right.
But I don't think the sky's falling yet.
Well, let's talk about week 2s. Have you guys gone through week 2s in Jimbo? Have you?
I have, and I think it's very interesting. Week 2s. A lot of them are losses.
Clemson's.
But the way that the season turns after week 2s have been very different.
Well, yeah. The one win under Jimbo that is a week 2 is Colorado.
Right.
And it didn't feel like a win.
No, that was a very ugly game.
Ugly game. So
and that's when you lost Haynes Keene, and that,
it doesn't mean the entire season is going to go one direction. Last year it did. It doesn't necessarily mean that. Tyler, what do you think was the biggest thing that happened Saturday? The biggest issue.
The biggest issue. I think it was the not getting to the quarterback. Honestly, and I think that was the biggest. What are we doing? What is happening? Because we talked all preseason and fall camp of how talented and deep this defensive line is. And granted, Jimbo said he was pleased with how they stopped the run, but I mean, did they even need to run when they're, Tyler Van Dyke was having all day to throw in the pocket and his receivers were wide open and burning the DBs. So I think no pressure on the quarterback. I think if you get to Tyler Van Dyke, you sack him multiple times and you get him running out of the pocket, this game's completely different.
Unfortunately, that's been a theme the last couple of years.
Right. And that's the thing that's maybe a cause of concern is you think it could be an easy fix, but the fact that it hasn't been fixed for so long, you start to wonder, when will it be fixed?
I think if you look at the, the lines, like if you were to tell me one of the teams will have 5 touchdowns. One of the quarterbacks will have 5 touchdowns and will have 40 points. The other quarterback will have 2 touchdowns and 2 turnovers and only have, or almost 50 points. Then the other team will have 33 points. I'd be like, I'm going to go with Connor Wigman, who is coming off the performance he had at against New Mexico versus, Miami, the team that they beat last year. But then it's like, no, those are flipped. And you're going against Van Dyke, who's a senior he's a veteran quarterback going against, a young secondary. And looking back and watching the condensed game, I felt like the tackling, and it's not breaking news that the defense wasn't good in that game. And I felt like a lot of the tackles, I don't know if it was like the jerseys, it was like they just slid right off of them. Yeah. And I don't want to say it's like an effort thing because
Miami actually had olive oil.
That's what I was like, do they have...
We got to look into this. There's something going on.
It's a fake fact.
Yeah.
Do we have like butter or is it
Both.
rain or what's going on down there? But it's like they would just slide right off and then they'd break 3 tackles. And so, I mean, that's frustrating to see. And you never want to be like, the effort's not there because, these athletes they're not choosing to not tackle, but.
Well, a couple things on the turnovers. I don't really put any of them on Connor. The first one, Anias falls. Mm-hmm. The second one was the last offensive play was a 4th down. It's a turnover anyway. You just try to make a play, and that's the end of the game, right? Yeah. The Amari one hurt because I think that's the one that he had, the fumble when he bounced out. Even you had a chance to take the lead on that drive,
right?
In a game that was at the time was 31-26.
Was too.
Absolutely, yeah. And then you just set it up for Miami. You don't win many games though on the road ever if you give a special teams touchdown and have 3 turnovers.
No. Well, and it almost balanced out because I think A&M was in a fortunate position when you have a blocked punt that sets up that first touchdown, and then you have a muffed punt. So I think A&M did enough on special teams to put them in good position. But you're right. You shoot yourself in the foot when you have that Amari Daniels fumble and that turns into points. So that does sting.
Outside of Connor, did anybody impress you?
I'm still Evan Stewart is still. I mean, he looks like a first-round talent. NFL draft pick because he is very talented. Now. The fact that it took so long to get some of these receivers involved in this game, I mean, that was a little like, well, this is, different than what we saw in week 1. But even after it was such a slow start, getting them involved, he still had a great game.
You know what's well, I don't know if he had a great game, and that's what makes him so good,
well,
right?
Okay, up to his standards, maybe it wasn't.
Right, the numbers were nice, but I've seen him more impactful in games, yet that just shows the kind of talent that he is.
Right.
What I don't know if concern's the right word, but raised an eyebrow. We still haven't gotten Moose going.
No.
Anias Smith still hasn't gotten going either. Those are 2 that I'm like, when is it going to happen?
Right. And I'm impressed with Anias, with his leadership. And I mean, he said all the right things yesterday in the press conference, how to handle himself after a loss. But I don't think he is needing to be the guy. He understands there's a lot of young talent, and he's good at that mentorship role. But yeah, in order to have an efficient offense, you need to have the ball in Nice's hands. I mean, feed the studs. Well, we need all of them involved. So.
Yeah. Any thoughts offensively, Nicole, that pop out to you?
Well, I think Evan Stewart is just such a reliable factor. Like he didn't have the game one. It was Noah Thomas, and had the 3 touchdowns, and Evan had 2, and still it felt like he was overshadowed. And then this game, Noah doesn't have as big of a game as he did, but Evan still, is hanging right in there. I do think it's a area of concern. Anais is a staple of that offense. Moose is also a staple of that offense, and it's like if we're not feeding the studs, how do you pick the studs? And I do think that's a room for optimism, though, because there are so many of them that this ULM game coming up, which is kind of disheartening. Like, they're supposed to win this game. They're supposed to win by a lot. So you won't really see kind of the changes they make until they're pressured against Auburn or Arkansas. But I could see Moose or Anais, getting more hit, action coming up.
So I assume I know the answer for you. Maybe not for you. Have your expectations changed based on the Miami game?
No.
I didn't think so, because what you said earlier.
I didn't expect them to lose this game, but I don't think that it's big end of the
I'm
world.
actually kind of the same. My expectations don't really change. No, I thought this. I thought 8-4 was the most realistic for this team. Now, Graham, just like you, there is a way to get to 10 wins and like that. But I thought 8-4 kind of was what this team was going to be. Better than last year. Not quite there yet. But at the same time, I thought they would beat Miami. So now I think they're going to have to win a game like an Alabama or Ole Miss that I thought may have been a loss.
They need to split the Alabama-Tennessee series and win the games before that. That's what they have to do.
Right, and if they do that, they're in position for a great season, I think.
Yeah. Let's come back with more. I want to ask you your big 3 observations, the KBTX big 3 observations.
Give you 5.
You can give me 12. It doesn't matter. Marketing expert here. We'll come back with more with KBTX here on TexAgs Radio. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio, KBTX 3. Big 3, I should say, with 2 of the...
Yeah. News 3.
News 3.
Yeah, News 3 Sports.
All sorts of threes.
But it's the big 3 observations that we're about to do.
Yeah. There's 3 of us at the table.
There are. Usually, well, it depends. It kind of depends on the week, right? Sometimes we've got 3 of you and me.
You never know what you're
Well, I feel like we could never do 4, so that's why I have bowed out well, no, I was getting my teeth cleaned last week.
We could do one more right here. We've done it before.
No, but all 4
Oh,
of us.
we can.
Yeah.
We can do whatever we want. You know, it's the beauty of the show. All right. Pick a number between 1 and 3.
3.
All right. I don't want people to see what I
you
have.
said between 1 and 3, so 2 is the only...
Yeah, you go first.
What? Tricky.
All right. So big 3 observations. Number 1, Connor Wigman is that guy. He is
him.
He is him. Yes, Connor Wig him. You started that one. We haven't seen a quarterback this complete in a while at A&M, I don't think. At least you go back to Kellen Mond when you had a steady starter, that got them through a season. Connor Wigman, what he was able to do, facing the pressure he faced and still making great plays, and still the way he played could have won you the game, I think. You throw in the turnovers and that doesn't help him, but he's great. All right, so that's number 1. Number 2, A&M needs to learn to control the line of scrimmage. That was probably the biggest thing that jumped out to me is on defense. They're not showing any sort of pressure to Tyler Van Dyke.
Right.
They're not pushing that. And on offense, they showed a little bit better than last year, but there were a lot of times the pocket collapsed. And granted, Jimbo spoke on that yesterday. A lot of it wasn't just on the offensive line. It had a lot of to do with the way Connor was running and things like that. But still, they didn't do a very good job of controlling that line of scrimmage. And when you get to SEC play, you're going to need to do that to win games down the road.
You know what's funny?
What?
People hear things the way they want to hear it. There's one text that comes in that you guys are too high on A&M, and then there's another one 5 seconds later. This team is much better than you give them credit for. There were many holding calls that should have been called on Miami. Okay. So, please.
Okay, so my 3, I would like to see a quarterback sack.
One? Plenty.
The bar's low.
Let's go, right?
The bar's low.
Well, they had 2.
I'd like to see
6.
Okay, make it 9.
Okay, let's just go with 3.
So 3, big on 3s. I'd like to see a wide receiver or a tight end. I know they're kind of those tight end rooms not as big as their wide receiver room. Have more than 1 touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we could say, Moose get a touchdown, and Anais get a touchdown, and you get a touchdown, and you get a touchdown.
Oprah.
But,
Yeah.
Yes, but maybe I don't know, some consistency. Like, you want to be able to spread it out, but then it's also like you want one person to be able to get more than one. And then what was my other one? It's like, so the tackling. Like, does A&M sell out to stop the run, but then it's like the passing game. Like last year, their passing defense was so well, but no one had to pass the ball when the run defense was so bad.
Right.
And so now it's like they stopped the run against Miami, but now the passing. And so it's like, how do we marry them? How do those two kind of mix well? So I would just like to see some improvements on. I mean, that's such a bland answer. I'd like to see some improvements on the defense, but
so another comment I've seen is like, how can this Auburn game for a team that was expected to compete in the West be so important? And I think for me, and I'd like to hear your take, it's important because now we're starting to see a clearer picture of who this team is. Mm-hmm. And if you start SEC play against I think a team that is not as good as you in your home, and you look bad again, well, then this is who you are. If you win, it just sets up another week of, all right, here's another big test, right? But I think it's just more making it, it's like putting glasses on. You get a clearer picture.
Mm-hmm. I think because the ULM game won't really be able to show much of the improvements that are made because you're supposed to win by a lot and you're favored by a lot. And so I think that the Auburn game is such a big test because, when you say like, what is this team made of? What are the challenges it's facing? Well, one of the challenges that it faced was the Miami game, and maybe that came a little too soon for some people. They thought that A&M was just going to roll the non-con, and then once conference starts, then you'll see what the team's made of. But now you heard the teams in the press conference yesterday, or the players saying, like, we're really hurt by this, and we don't want to feel this again. Well, they said that last year after how last year turned out. So when does it switch of what you don't want to feel like?
We've got like 4 seconds. Go ahead.
Sorry, Tyler.
No, you're good. I mean, every team in the SEC West is 0-0 right now. The sky's not falling. You win Auburn, you're 1-0, and you're in the driver's seat.
We're walking on the clouds, baby.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
All right.
Tyler, Nicole. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, we're going to keep it real with Jordan Pugh. He's got straight facts. That's next on TexAgs. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Garner, Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. I feel like keeping it real, like real, with some straight facts. Let's go to the hotline. Jordan Pugh is with us. Jordan, good morning, buddy.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing. I'm doing.
Yeah, I figured that. I figured that a lot of us Aggies kind of feel the same way a little bit. You know what I mean?
How are you doing? How about that? That's a better way of asking.
I'm good, man. I'm good. You know, enjoyed the weekend a little bit. Got to watch a little football. You know, got to watch our Aggies play. So, you know, I'm all right. You know what I mean? I'm doing good. Life is good. Wife is good. Kids are good. So everything is good overall.
All right. So I know you're going to keep it real. We're going to go through some of your observations, but how disheartening was that defensive performance on Saturday?
Okay, so I got to take you through emotional stages. All right. So when I watched the game initially, I was like, this is terrible. Okay. That was my first thought, right? So then I turned the TV off. I sat down, went and played with the kids. And then I said, you know what? Let me go back and let me watch this again. So I watched it again. And I said, well, this is bad, but it's not as bad as I thought it was. Okay. So going through my emotional stages. So I went and watched it a third time. And I said, okay, this was a game of momentum, and this was a game of missed opportunities. That's what it boiled down to. I do not feel the same way I felt last year. Last year, as the season went on, I'm like, all right, we're just a bad football team. When I watched this game over again, I looked at the opportunities we had to take advantage, or we had to take control of the game. I looked at the opportunities that we missed, and I said, okay, this team is here. They have the pieces, but the opportunities they didn't take advantage of. So I don't feel as bad today. I still think it's bad. I think in year 6, it shouldn't be turnovers like we had. Shouldn't be special teams breakdowns like we had. There should not be guys running wide open on defense like we had. There shouldn't be that many missed assignments in zone defenses like we had. But overall, I think those are things that we can fix. And I think we have the pieces to fix them. So am I a little irritated by the loss? Yeah. But am I also hopeful that it can get corrected? Yes. So it's kind of twofold. That's kind of where I'm at on the game this weekend.
All right. As a defensive guy, help me understand the missed tackles. I've heard different reasons for it, but when it's that many dudes, like what was the reason?
One, out of position. That was the main issue. So when you turn the film on and you start breaking down the defense, it's 2 things. So on the touchdowns that were scored, a lot of that was one-on-one coverage, and we just got beat, flat out just beat. Okay. The other things were the other touchdowns. I think the one down the sideline fourth quarter, I think Gilbert, I want to say, missed that tackle. That's an effort play. Those are things that coaches preach on all the time. They preach all the time on those, but you have to make those tackles. It was an effort because he put his shoulder in. There was no urgency to get him to the ground. There was no want to get him to the ground. What you saw a lot on those missed tackles were guys that were out of position and guys that weren't urgent in getting guys to the ground. That's the problem. If I have a coach, I have an issue with that. I have an issue with the effort. I have an issue with the urgency, knowing where we were within the situation of the game. So I told you, the game of momentum. I thought there was a heavy momentum swing going into halftime, and we just were never really able to recover from that. But a lot of that could have been cured if we could have got off the field on third downs, and we could have prevented big explosive plays on Miami's end. So that's something that has to get corrected immediately on defense in order for them to make the run that they want to make.
Jordan, the Yak, 241 yards, man. That's a passing game for somebody with no yard. 241 yards after the catch, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and so let's go back to my emotional play. So here's another thing. The offense wasn't bad.
Right.
The offense was not the problem. That's the thing. And when you look at the defense, it's just defense is very simplistic and it's difficult at the same time. All right. So offenses want to have a lot of eye manipulation, but a lot of it boils down to, can you create havoc? Can you stop big plays? Okay. We did a good job of creating havoc on the line of scrimmage in the first half. We didn't do a great job in the second half. Also, those big plays were more prevalent in the second half. We talked last week about the maturity going into a road game, going to Miami. How can they handle being on the road for the first time? I think that this team didn't handle the moment very well, but the effort overall was the thing that was disappointing. That's what it is on defense. Defense is see ball, get ball. It wasn't a fire. We looked slow on defense. For the first time in a long time, I thought we looked slow. I thought Miami played faster than us. I thought they had better specialists than us. It looked off this weekend. But it can be fixed with a mentality switch. That's the good thing about defense. Offense is a little bit more complex. But I think we can get those things done because they've shown that they can do it. You have guys like Damani that have done it many times before. Gilbert showed it last year. So the evidence is there. Now it's on them to correct that.
Talking to Jordan Pugh, I'm not going to argue with you here, but I am a little concerned offensively, not because the points were there. There's enough points to win that game. You're absolutely right. I don't like the blocking. Not yet. Connor did not have time. He had to. In the first half, there really wasn't a lot of offense either. It was short field and under duress. Second half, they adjusted. They do got to fix that line.
Yes. So that was one of the things that I put in one of the things we were going to go over with the facts is the protection. Okay. So when I went and watched the film, you looked at the protection, a lot of the combo blocks we missed. So you saw a lot of free runners. And I think it was the announcers in the game, or Jimbo, one of the two were talking about they brought more than we could block. Yes and no. Not necessarily. A lot of it were 6-man boxes, sometimes 7-man boxes. But when we had the combo blocks, we didn't reach up to the mic, and the mic ran free. So there was a lot of penetration there. When they brought those corner blitzes, a lot of times we would pull either play side guard or opposite guard. They're supposed to pick up first color. We let them run right by. It was a lot of just missed assignments. So that's why I'm saying when you look at it overall, it's a lot of things you can fix. Block the first color you see. You know what I mean? Sometimes just simplify the game down. I just think that it was a little too much overthinking when it came to the line play. It was just too many missed blocks with free players that were running. That stuff can get corrected. But to your point, man, that was a big concern for that game. But moving forward, I think those are easy fixes and those things that we can carry on from week to week.
Jordan, you made me feel a lot better, honestly. Like that assessment right there does make me see some optimism. So you gave us one of your first facts. What else do you got for us?
Now, to go along with the offensive line, we've got to get a run game. Our run game, I think, is what's hindering us offensively. All right, so look, if we look at it, we played very average on offense, all right? But we still put up 33 points. We still had over 400 yards of total offense. We did enough to win the game offensively, even with the 2 interceptions. Even with the lack of run game, but we've got to be able to get a rusher over 100 yards. On the day, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was 97 yards rushing, if I'm not mistaken, on the day. That's less than 100 for a combined average with quarterback and our 3 running back duo. That's got to get fixed. But a lot of that was what you saw with the offensive line. If you go back, you watch the tape, you can watch the TV copy or you can watch the coach's copy. You can see a lot of the blocks that were just missed, and they're easy assignments. I bet you the O-line coach is losing his mind watching that tape with all the missed assignments. That's got to be fixed, man. So I just think with the rushing game, if we get that going, that makes us even more dangerous on offense. That opens up the playbook more, allows more play action, more boots, more waggles, and allows Connor to deal. Now, one of the other options too, man, and one of the other things that I saw in the game was Connor. Connor is that dude, man. Connor, he played well through all the circumstances, through the missed assignments on the offensive line. Through the blitz game that Miami was bringing, you had the 2 adverse situations with the turnovers that he had. He was poised in the pocket. He kept plays alive. He had command of that offense. They were moving the ball downfield. Your boy Stewart had over 100 yards receiving. I mean, the offense was working. It was moving. It was efficient, and I think it was because of Connor. I think he calmed the waters. What you want to see is quarterbacks be the eraser, and I thought he was the eraser this weekend. I thought you saw him grow up a little bit. We lost, but I think he took a big step this weekend. So I was happy to see that. The other issue, secondary, we've already talked about that. We touched on that, man. Here's the thing that scares me with the secondary. We could fix the zone coverages, but it was the man-to-man. We just got flat out beat man-to-man and beat bad. That was the thing. Not only did we get beat, we panicked. I thought the corners, especially DeBerry, panicked a lot. So when the ball was in the air, you didn't see them attach hip to hip to the receiver. You didn't see him turn his head a lot. What you saw was the oh no, the oh no play by the DB. And trust me, I've been in that situation before. You can't panic in those situations because he was in position if he just completes the play. But a lot of the times we didn't complete the play in the secondary. So that was some of the issues too that I saw, man, is if we can fix those things, if we can find those solid guys at the corner position, I think we'll be all right, and I think we can correct a lot of the mistakes.
I'm going to also back you up on that because I feel like people who played the game are all saying the same thing. We had Damani here yesterday. We got to win our assignments. We've got to win our battles. And it's really coming down to that on the offensive line in the secondary. Just win your battle.
Look, the biggest thing is this, and sometimes people got to cut coaches a break because the job of the coach is to put people in position to make plays. It's on the player to make the play. Now, if the player is not consistently making the play, you need to find a new player. Okay? Now, that's where the coaching comes in. The one thing that I saw in this Miami game is we were in position. That is the good thing. We were in position to make the plays. The problem was we were inconsistent in making those plays. I thought one of the biggest things that nobody's talking about, I thought one of the biggest factors in the game that played out was when Evan Stewart on that third down on, I think, that second drive. He caught the ball. He could have got the first down. If he gets that first down, I think we go and we score. We go up 2 scores. That changes the game. Nobody's talking about that play. I thought that was a crucial mistake on his part. He'll learn from it. Young, trying to make a play, we get it, right? But I just, when you talk about just the opportunities that were missed, they were missed because we were in position. We didn't take advantage of it. That's the biggest theme I have from this weekend.
So have your expectations for this team changed now that they had that kind of loss, or are they still the same kind of team you expected?
No, they're the same team. They're the same team. It's like this. So I think it was one of those games where we just couldn't handle the momentum. Sometimes you get into games where you feel the swing and you're trying to fight your way out of it, but you're doing too much. You know what I mean? And I think with what a lot of the players were saying, they were saying, man, we were trying to do too much because we were trying to do more than what our job required. I think if they just do what their job requires, it all works out for itself. If we compare last year to this year, last year it was not only missed assignments, we were just outgunned, we were outcoached, we were out a lot of things. This year, guys are in position. The offense was being efficient. It was just the missed opportunities. I don't know how else to say it. That's the theme. That's the theme of this weekend. If guys sit down and really break that film down, and you break it down quarter by quarter, you break it down series by series, it's 2 to 3 plays in that game that turned the tide, and we just weren't able to catch up.
Well, you said something earlier that I think, again, calms my nerves in multiple ways. The defense is fixable, sure. The assignments, you can win those. You can fix some of that. But you got the quarterback. And I'm not saying Connor's Caleb Williams, but look at what USC did with a suspect defense last year and a much easier schedule, no doubt about it. But when you've got that guy who is going to continue to get better, in my opinion, now you do have that fighter's chance.
So let's get into that. That's the number one reason why I'm okay. I'm not happy by any means, but I'm okay because Connor is rising to the occasion. That's what you want. Last year when we had Haynes, we went down that slope. I said he's not the guy. He doesn't fit. When I look at Max is good, but I don't think Max is an eraser. When I look at Connor has all the physical abilities. He has the command, and then what I saw this weekend, I saw him erase a lot of problems. That's what I'm looking for in a quarterback. That gives me hope now. Now I'm like, okay, we know we have the skill guys on the outside. We know that we have the defense that can get corrected because at the end of the day, our front is one of the best fronts talent-wise in the country. That can get fixed because they can cause a lot of chaos, a lot of problems, which will help our secondary. But we have that guy who can distribute the ball to the playmakers. We have a guy who can use his feet to make plays. And he's tough. And he's tough physically. He's tough mentally. We got to get the run game going, but we have a guy now, a centerpiece that we can focus that offense on.
I got to ask the why, though. You mentioned the front. We got the guys, but they're not getting the quarterback. This is a year and some change now of not really putting pressure on the quarterback. Tyler Van Dyke had all day, man.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that had to do with scheme. So there's a couple things. This is where I'll get on our D coordinator. Okay, we'll get on Durkin. Sometimes when you have top-tier athletes, you just have to let the athletes be athletes. So what do I mean by that? If you go back, you watch the tape, you'll see a lot of games, you'll see a lot of stunts that we had on the defensive line. So we'll crash inside, we'll pinch. Sometimes they call it a pinch stunt. Everybody bounces inside in order to get the ball to bounce outside to let the linebackers run free. You'll see a lot of wraps. TN stunts, man, you'll bring the RTE stunts, you'll bring the two ends. They'll crash in, have that tackle wrap. When you have guys like we have, sometimes just let them go. Hey, man, go forward, get penetration, create chaos. I think you limit their ability sometimes when you run games as much as we do. I think if you pull back on the games and the stunts defensively, and you let us just get vertical. With a pass rush, you get vertical on run game. I think you'll see us be more dominant on defense. At the beginning of the game, especially on those first 2 to 3 drives with the offense, with Miami's offense, you saw us get a lot more penetration because there was no stunts. It was get vertical, shoot your gap, create chaos, and you saw that. You saw the athleticism. I think with Shamar Stewart running down Van Dyke on the sideline. Somebody that big, moving that fast, the ability is there, but sometimes you got to let them play free. And you just got to give them one job, one assignment, shoot that gap, get vertical, and create chaos. I think we make that change. I think you see a huge difference.
What about, look, there's one other offensive point that I want to make, and I don't even know if it's a point, but it's more surprising. As good as the offense has been, Anias really hasn't been a focal point. Moose hasn't been a focal point. And, look, they're scoring. But, like, those are dudes right there.
I'm glad that you said that, because that was going to be one of my facts that I was going to point out too. Where are they at? Moose, I don't know if he started or not. I can't tell. I can't tell if he's not. But he's one of your most dynamic playmakers, and you're not using him on the field. Anias, I told you, is an equivalent to me to a Percy Harvin type. He's that guy that you can flex outside, flex in the slot, and move into the backfield. I don't think we're taking advantage of those two players. I think Noah Thomas has stepped up. I think Evan is who we thought he was. But especially with our tight end situation the way it is, you have 2 more playmakers that you could fluently use in that offense. I think we're not utilizing the explosiveness of our offense to its full capability, if that makes sense. Until we get that run game going, you have 4 guys on the outside. My stance has not changed. We have one of the best receiver rooms in the country, but I think we're not utilizing that correctly. I think Petrino understands that. You saw towards the end of the game, you saw Moose start touching the ball a little bit more. You saw them try to get the ball to Anias a little bit more, but they're going to have to change that going into SEC play. That's going to have to be a huge factor in getting those guys to football.
Or how about putting Anias in the backfield, right? Like, I mean, he's done it before.
Yeah.
Just feed the studs, give him the ball any way you can.
Well, that's good, but we got to get the blocking down.
Yeah.
Look, a running back is only as good as his blocking. So you can say what you want about running backs. If your line ain't blocking, you ain't running that ball anywhere. I think if we use him in multiple facets, though, if we move him, we motion him to the backfield. We start him in the backfield, motion him out. I think if we go more to our 4 wide receiver sets, we get Anias, we get Moose, Noah, Evan on the field. Now you create more one-on-one matchups. That's the one thing that you do. Because now you have 4 guys who are 4 legitimate threats. That empties the box. That allows us to run the football a little bit more. That gives us more 6-man boxes, possibly 5-man boxes, depending on the front, which will open up the run game. I just think that we have to switch our approach to the starter games, which will open up more of the offense.
Last thing for you. You got a game in front of you that I know we went through what we went through last year, but like this should be a win, right? But let's say they win 42-0, whatever. Okay, let's just say.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean anything, right? Like it's still 2 weeks. It's still until you start SEC play that it starts to matter. But can you make this game matter? Can you figure out some of your issues in this game so we don't see them pop up again when Auburn comes?
Yeah, it matters. And yes, it means something. Because if we learn anything from last year, we learned what it was like to lose to an inferior opponent. And we learned how that builds momentum throughout the season. Look, this game is important because now you're talking about the maturation process, all right? So you have the young guys who played last year. You saw that maturation process in game 1. You saw them go on the road for the first time. The momentum started to swing. They couldn't fight their way out of it. Now you need to see a response. Now, the thing I want to see in this game is I want to see the run game take over, okay? I want to see the simple assignments, zone blocks, counter game, and be able to get the run game established, but also start opening up that offense with more Moose and more Anias as well. Get them more touches, which I think will open up more of the playbook and allow Connor to really deal like he can.
That is Jordan Pugh. Straight facts here on the program. Thank you, Jay. Appreciate you, sir.
All right, let's do it.
All right, talk to you next week. Jordan Pugh on the hotline. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, we actually can open it back up. We've had some guests. We'll be open to chit-chat with all of you here. You can do that on the text line, 979-693-1150. You can also call us up and voice your opinion as well, 979-693-1150. Right now, we're talking Caprock Health System and their highly personalized emergency care. When you go to a Caprock hospital, just know that you're going to be taken care of. Their patients are going to benefit from a very unique one-on-one experience. So when you go there, it's not like you're not waiting a long time in the waiting room, because you don't have to wait when you have an emergency situation. They're going to take good care of you right away. And if you have to stay there a little bit longer than expected, they're going to manage every element of your stay while you're at a Caprock hospital, with their hotel quality rooms and incredible staff that are there to take care of you any way that they can. 100% locally owned and operated, putting the patient first in every decision that they make. Their sole purpose is to make you feel better. 2 state-of-the-art facilities designed for patient healing and family friendliness. You got Caprock Hospital in Bryant and Caprock 24-hour emergency center in College Station. Both have 0 wait time for emergency care, so you'll never have to sit in a crowded waiting room. Again, it's Caprock Hospital in Bryant and Caprock 24-hour emergency center in College Station.
Well, we called a lot of balls to him. I mean, we called probably 8 or 10 balls, whether it gets to him or how it does in the read. I mean, you want those guys' touches, without a doubt. Nice has got to touch the ball. And he had plenty of balls that were targeted to him. Either they took away or coverage took away or rush or whatever it was. So, and we'll continue to get the ball in his hands. And like I said, we got to continue to play them all. Like I said, we've got a good set of receivers, the 3 that start. And then you got Moose and Jade and all those guys. We got to keep getting them the ball. You know what I mean? And some of those young guys, as we get some of them back in the mix. But we got to get them the ball without doubt.
It feels weird to nitpick at part of the game that is working. I think offensively, it is night and day what we saw last year from a production standpoint, from a point standpoint, it is better. But there are things that can make it so much more better, right? And there are ways to nitpick on several things. There's bigger areas of concern, no doubt about it. I just look at, and by the way, we're TexAgs Radio. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. I just look at Ainias as, look, there's a reason Damani came back. There's a reason Ainias came back, right? To enhance their NFL outlook for sure. Unfinished business here at Texas A&M. And when it comes to Ainias specifically, I'd like to see him get more opportunities. And I'm sure it's not 100% on the Aggies. Like people are like, he's the proven commodity. Let's take him out of it. But let's find ways to get him the ball. Got to find ways to get your stars the ball. Luke, at some point during the show, kind of look up A-Chain's early numbers last year. Because if I remember correctly, they weren't spectacular after 2 games. And he turned it on as the season went on. And I'm hoping that not that the season is similar, obviously, but at least from a production standpoint, we find ways to use Ainias Smith in multiple ways. And by the way, and that goes for Moose too. Moose just makes plays. And sometimes you just got to have playmakers out there. Find guys that are going to make plays. I know that there's, throughout my years of covering sports and being a fan, there are players that, show up on certain afternoons that you just got to put them out there. Like, I don't know. That guy is a winner. That guy's a gamer. And I look at Moose as a guy who makes big plays. So let's find our big play guys out there. But again, if you're going to nitpick, you know where I'm nitpicking. I'm actually starting my nitpicking on the defensive front. That's where I started because I think the secondary is what it is. So let's help them out as much as possible. Yeah, they got to win their individual battles, no doubt about it. But if you start putting pressure on a quarterback, look at the Super Bowls throughout the years when Tom Brady has struggled. Why has it been? Because they're sending people at him. Make them hurt. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Luke Evangelist. Luke, buddy.
Yeah, I've got those A-Chain stats for you. The first game against Sam Houston, 18 carries for 42 yards. Appalachian State, 10 carries for 66 yards. And then Miami, 18 carries for 88 yards. But he also had a receiving touchdown in that game. And then in that fourth game against Arkansas, he went for almost 160. Mississippi State over 100. Ole Miss over 130. Florida over 120. LSU over 200. So those first 3 games were really slow for him, but then he picked it up after.
And I think that's been the case the last couple of years, right? Like establishing that run game early on. And by the way, you got a fast car, like you're going to try to go fast, right? And you get this new offense. You're trying these. See, how's Evan Stewart going to be? Like, how's Noah Tom? Like, I keep feeding those guys. I just think that there's hopefully opportunities to feed the rest of them too. Ja'Day Walker, as Jimbo said on that soundbite, like, he's been really good when he's been out there. And I know Miami took away a lot of that by sending the pressure that they sent, but I still think there's ways you can use Ainias Smith to be a bigger factor in the offense. Luke?
Yeah, did you see that YouTube chat from BG Lowe says putting Ainias Smith in the backfield, either in single back or split back, is a massive weapon. I personally would love to see them use Ainias more on third down and be creative, sort of what we saw in 2020, I believe, where you would have Spiller and Ainias Smith in the backfield, pass protection, going out in the flat, and just getting them the ball in different ways.
Well, I just think confuse those folks, right? Confuse them. And Ainias is a guy that you can use so many different ways. He can block. By the way, have you noticed, I feel for the most part, third down back has been Ruben Owens. On third downs, it seems like he's been the go-to guy. A lot of first downs on Amari Daniels, right, in first and second, but I've seen Ruben oftentimes being the third down back. What else do you have, Luke?
Yeah, well, speaking of Ruben Owens being the third down back, I thought the play design on that first third down where they sent him out wide and it was that like 20, 30-yard catch he had, Miami bringing pressure and you get it out quickly to him. I thought that was a beautiful play and I would have loved to see more of that, especially as there was a text message earlier talking about why aren't we getting the ball out quickly to running backs, where the running back screens with Miami bringing pressure. I thought that first third down really, I thought it would have set the tone. I thought it overall was a great play design, and I think we need to see more of that. If we're going to utilize Ruben Owens' speed, why not use it on third down and have Ainias to complement that as well?
Yeah. It's one of the things Jordan said there a moment ago, and what we need to hit a break here in a second, but was about the momentum. And I think A&M really missed an opportunity to step on throats in that game. Obviously, Miami stepped on some throats, right? They anytime A&M countered and they were making their comeback, Miami had their answer. But you capitalize and make it 14-0 to start, right? Or you had those opportunities, then any chance of momentum, like, it seems out of reach. And when it seems out of reach, you make a play or two and get kind of back into it, but you're still not, right? And that's the thing. A&M had a real opportunity early on in that game to make it 14-0. And then, not saying that would have been the game, because look at the amount of points that Miami does end up scoring. But it does kind of change the vibe. And the fact that when it seemed like you stole back the momentum, they answered with a kickoff return, that was the backbreaker. All right, we're going to come back with Mike Hammett, who's the director of broadcasting who covers ULM. We'll talk with him about Louisiana Monroe, about what makes them good, what makes them a struggle, and all and whatnot. Right now, that we're talking Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They are on Highway 21. They're in Caldwell, and they're online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. I bought a vehicle from them a year and some change, right? It was, I think, July, June-ish of last year. And I tell the story because it's what probably many of you do. For months, we're talking about it. Well, this lemon we got to get a new car. We got to get this new car. And then you're waiting on your finances and the right situation until, you go as long as you can. Well, I was in contact with our friends there at Caldwell Country. I was like, look, I don't know when it's coming. It's probably coming in a day or 6 weeks or 2 months. It took a little bit longer, right? But they were constantly showing me some great vehicles, and then I was going on caldwellcountrychevrolet.com and looking at the vehicles. And then when we were ready to pull the trigger, we did. We pulled the trigger, and we got ourselves a Tahoe at the right price, great trade-in value, and amazing customer service. And that continues now. We have to get some service done on the vehicle. We called them up. It's going to be super simple. It's just what they do there. 15-minute drive, Brown to Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with our friends there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. Next up, Louisiana Monroe here on TexAgs Radio. Well, for A&M football. Can't come quick enough after that Miami game. Let's talk to The Voice, Director of Broadcasting, Mike Hammett here on the program. Mike, how are you, buddy?
Hey, doing well. Looking forward to another trip to College Station Saturday.
Well, I appreciate your time here. Talk to me a little bit about ULM. What are they good at? Where do they struggle?
You know, this year has been kind of another transition year, which has really become the norm at a lot of Group of Five schools with the transfer portal, that you lose a lot of guys, but you bring in a lot of guys. So I think the biggest thing is that Coach Terry Bowden, now in year number 3, has kept both of his coordinators, that Matt Kubik on offense still around, Vic Koenig still around on defense, and that's helped expedite some things about getting everybody up to speed. But this team's been really good running the football and pretty good defensively here through the first couple of weeks of the season. Now, of course, you're playing Army, which was a great opponent week 1 to come here to ULM, and then Lamar last week almost felt like a trap game with as important as the Army game was for ULM, and Texas A&M now this week that everybody gets excited to go play the SEC game. So you kind of look forward to that one a little bit. It's hard to get fired up for Lamar, quite honestly, in the middle. And, the Cardinals played hard Saturday because that's their Super Bowl, to come play an FBS team. So it was, still a good, solid performance defensively. They forced 7 turnovers through 2 weeks. ULM had 8 turnovers forced all of last season. And Hunter Smith has really been a surprise in the run game, that he got the starting nod over a couple of P5 transfers, and he's averaging 10.2 yards per carry through 2 games. It leads the nation. So Hunter Smith and Isaiah Woolard have been a nice 1-2 punch, but that's kind of the headlines on both sides. Really has been running the ball very well on the offensive side, and then defensively just have done a nice job of taking drives away from teams and limiting what they can do in the red zone.
Excuse the question, but let me just phrase it this way. Does ULM look at this as an opportunity against Texas A&M because of maybe their potentially mentally wounded team and everybody knows what happened last year? Or is it more like, hey, this is a great opportunity for our kids to play in front of 100,000 and let's go after it?
I think it's one of those that ULM approaches a game like this, that there's really nothing to lose for the Warhawks in this game because, nobody's picking them to win outside of the guys in that locker room. They believe they can go win this game for sure. And that's how they approach every week, whether it's Texas A&M, whether it's App in 2 weeks or however it works out. But, this group, I think they believe they can come to College Station and win. And I think that's regardless of, what happened last week with Miami, what happened a year ago. So I think this group is playing with a little confidence right now, a little bit of a swagger, which is something new for ULM that hasn't happened much over the last 30 years of FBS football. But, I'm interested to see how this turns out Saturday, just because, like I said, there's nothing to lose. Nobody expects this team to win outside of the guys in that locker room and this coaching staff. And we'll see what happens when the Warhawks take the field this Saturday.
Last year, A&M struggled stopping the run. This year, it seems to be stopping the pass. ULM really good at running, not so much with the pass. What do you credit the success of running the ball?
I think there's a lot of experience back on the offensive line. For one, guys that not necessarily were listed as starters a year ago, but did play a lot. All 5 of the guys have previously played for ULM. So I think it's helped with their chemistry in this era of the transfer portal and everything it is. I think there's some value in having guys who have played together for a season coming into this year. So that's really helped them. Hunter Smith, I think, has great vision, a guy that kind of got buried on the depth chart a little bit last year, showed out well in spring ball 2 years ago, in camp last year leading up to the season, and a late injury in camp cost him time and really, got behind a few guys and never got an opportunity. And so he's getting his chance this year. Isaiah Woolard kind of got buried at Ole Miss a little bit too, had a great freshman year all the way back in 2019 or 2018, I believe. And so he's really taken advantage of this final season for him. He's had 5 years between 100-yard rushing games, did so as a freshman at Ole Miss, and then did so last week against Lamar. So, two backs that I think really take advantage of some things, quarterbacks that can run the ball well between Hunter Herring and Jaya Wright. And I think the passing game, they changed out how they do some of their splits, and they're playing receivers all the way out to the boundaries on both sides, similar to what Tennessee does. So I think it's taken a little bit of time to get everybody adjusted to the new routes and just how far away everybody can be from the football as well.
Talk to me a little bit about their pace and their tempo.
It's been incredible this year. They ramped it up, and so I will have plays that, I don't let my analysts talk because it's the ball is down and they go and spot the ball and let's go. I mean, I'm out of breath after about 4 or 5 plays. I've joked that I need to start doing some sprints during the week so I can get ready to go on Saturdays. So, they have done a lot of drives with just the same 11 on the field. They don't sub. They don't want the defense to sub. Now, that's worked out well against Army, and it's worked out well against Lamar as far as, trying to catch them so they can't get fresh guys in there. I think it's going to be a little tougher against an SEC team just with the added depth that Texas A&M has to be able to do that. But it's a good test and a good measuring stick to see where they're at on that tempo. The problem is sometimes they try to go a little too fast, a little too soon on some of those drives. And so they'll get the football back and go 3 and out in 20 seconds and they give the ball right back to the other team. So I think we're going to see this Warhawk team evolve still. I'm interested to see if they maybe try to slow it down until they get a first down and then go with that tempo. But, those are all things that are still a little bit of a work in progress this season.
You mentioned earlier, and we're talking to Mike Hammond here, who the voice of ULM. You mentioned a moment ago about the line doing a good job blocking. What about protecting the quarterbacks? How's pressure been?
They've done a decent job so far. I think they've only given up a couple of sacks that I can, remember off the top of my head. But really, it helps that you have 2 guys that have played so far in Hunter Herring and Jaya Wright that are mobile guys that can get out of the pocket and evade some of that pressure so far. It's just been a bit of accuracy from them that's been the bigger concern. So, Hunter Herring, of course, suffered an injury late in the game against Lamar. Coach Terry Bowden's having his media conference right now in the room next door to me here at ULM. So I'm sure that they're getting the update on what Hunter Herring's status is for Saturday. But I would expect Jaya Wright's probably going to see some time just based on some things I've heard. So both guys can move. The offensive line does a nice job giving them a little bit of time, but then if that pressure starts to come, they've both had good presence to get out of the way and try to go create something.
How is it working with Terry Bowden and just the wealth of knowledge, experience, and whatnot?
He's confident that he's going to get this thing turned around, and he has said time and time again, throughout his career, he's always gone to programs that were a bit down when he took them over and turned them into a winner again. And so he did that starting off at Salem, going to Samford, took him from Division III to Division I. And then Auburn, of course, won his first 20 games at Auburn before things fell apart with the Tigers. But even at Akron, he got Akron to a couple of bowl games before it fell apart late. So right now it's year 3. He, his staff, I think, believes they can get to a bowl game this year. 2-0 to start the season certainly helps in that regard. But he's trying to do things that just haven't happened at ULM. This is year 30 of playing at FBS Division 1A when they made that move in 1994. And they've been to 1 bowl game. And so that's a big mountain to climb here. And so they think they're on the right track. They're hopeful they can get there this year, but they think they really have things moving in the right direction. And he's a guy that's really kind of trusted his assistant coaches to do a lot of the things and taken on a bit of a CEO role, though he still likes to meddle in the offense a little bit. But he's, I think, really brought a boost to this program to try to get ULM over the hump and going there.
Has he mentioned anything about his relationship with Jimbo? I know that they obviously have ties to his father, and they coached together at Auburn, too.
Yeah, that goes all the way back to the Salem College days, of course. Terry coach brought Jimbo in to be his first quarterback there at Salem, and then eventually Jimbo follows him to Samford and becomes Division III National Player of the Year, and then they coached together for some time, and then while Terry was out of coaching and at ABC, helped recruit Jimbo to go to Florida State to coach with Bobby. And it's interesting, though, to have that relationship. He hasn't said a lot just yet about all that, but I'm sure it'll be an interesting chat at midfield before the game Saturday and an interesting handshake after the game Saturday, depending on how things play out. But it's always fun when you can get some familiarity between the coaches. And it's been a long time since Jimbo and Terry have spent time together, I'm sure, but it should be fun on Saturday.
Mike, what kind of outlook beyond the A&M game does ULM have in this world of college football with, you mentioned earlier, the transfers in, the transfers out? It's kind of hard to really pinpoint how good a team is, but what is the outlook?
The Sun Belt has done a fantastic job of elevating. I mean, for years, it had the reputation of being the worst conference in major college football. And now you could make the argument, I think, this year that they are the league outside of the Power Five that really has risen up. And so right now, ULM has App State and South Alabama, the two home games coming up here after Texas A&M, and feel like they're two critical games to get done. But App State is, kind of one of the leaders in this league. And then South Alabama has maybe the best roster they've ever had since they brought on a football program. So two huge games. If they want to get to a bowl game, really need to split those at least, if not win both. And then, it's road trip to Texas State, which GJ Kinney's done a fantastic job over there already with that program, and Georgia Southern on the road. And they've gone from triple option the last time we saw them to air raid now. And it's a difficult schedule because you feel like looking at the Sun Belt through the first 2 weeks, it feels like there's only 1 weak link, and oddly enough, it's in Jonesboro with Arkansas State so far. I mean, they have been the leader of this league for so many years in the past decade to 15 years, and they are really struggling this year. So it's a tough league, week in, week out. Anybody can win any game, any given Saturday. It's kind of SEC junior a little bit, but it's a fun league to follow. That's why some people call it the Fun Belt, and I'm expecting some wild games this year, and hopefully ULM can end up on the right side of 4 more of them and see if they can get that second bowl invite.
What does ULM have to do to make this game interesting on Saturday?
I think just doing what they've been doing against Army and Lamar. Of course, it's got to go to a much bigger scale. That's ULM doesn't turn the ball over and they don't commit penalties. They're among the top teams in the nation in those two categories. If they can not make silly mistakes, which they haven't done through the first 2 weeks, and just kind of take care of themselves, if they can find a way to force a couple of turnovers, they have 7 takeaways through 2 weeks, and they've got to hit a couple big plays here and there. I think the biggest thing is Lamar got it to the fourth quarter against ULM where the Warhawks started to sweat a little bit on Saturday because all of a sudden Lamar was back in because ULM couldn't slam the door shut. That being said, I think ULM kind of let the foot off the gas a little bit, getting up 21-0, lost their edge. It's a little different going to Texas A&M. So if ULM can get A&M to the fourth quarter and it's a 1-score game, the pressure's on A&M. It's not on ULM at that point. So if they can get to that point and play error-free football, it's going to take a perfect game, but certainly this team seems to have the ability to play like that. We'll see what happens Saturday.
Mike Hammett, Director of Broadcasting and the voice of ULM. Mike, thanks for your time, bud. Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. Anytime.
Take care. Good conversation there. When we come back here on TexAgs Radio, we'll get to some text messages, close out the show, plus Ethan Jones with some stats to look at, that and more. I say more. There's only like 10 minutes left in the show. It's TexAgs Radio. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Ethan Jones has been looking up some stats for us, and I'm a little worried you're going to put me in a bad mood.
Yeah, I probably will. Let's be honest.
But are there, before we get into, because I looked at the first set of stats, are there any optimistic stats coming up?
You want to start with optimism? I had some optimism. I can start with that, and then we can go to negative.
Let's just start negative.
Okay, let's start negative.
I want to end on a happy note.
Okay, I like that. Let's start with the defense. Obviously, the biggest negative of the game. So points allowed, 41. 7 of them were special teams. That's like the 4th most in the Jimbo Fisher era. Passing yards, 374. 5th most in the Jimbo Fisher era. And then yards per completion, 17.8. 3rd highest. So, like, one of the worst defensive performances all time while Jimbo's been the head coach at A&M.
Well, in the aerial attack.
Yeah, in the aerial attack.
In the air, because they were. The
run game was good.
Run game was good, and I do think it was good as opposed to, but Miami didn't have to run, but when they did try to run, they didn't get a lot of big plays.
Yeah. Also, we had 13 missed tackles. We saw that the whole game. Just like our defenders bouncing off their receivers. And then we had Miami had 241 yards after the catch. That was 64% of their passing yards. So almost all of those after the catch.
More than half of their yards came after the catch.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's terrible. All right, let's move on. Offensive line is not optimistic either, is it?
It's another negative.
All right, going on.
Connor Wigman dropped back 56 times, was pressured on 26 of those dropbacks, which is 46%. So he was under pressure all day. We saw that. Still played great under pressure, but the offensive line let him down.
I should have probably asked you to look this up before. Did you get what Tyler Van Dyke's was? How many times he was pressured?
I didn't, but I saw it somewhere. I remember it was low.
Yeah,
I should have put it
felt low.
It
certainly felt low.
It was low. We did not get much pressure on him.
Okay.
Also, A&M ran for 97 yards and 3.3 yards per carry, so really low. And then over their 2 games, they've averaged 115.5 rushing yards, 3.98 yards per carry. These numbers rank 101st and 87th. Or 89th, respectively, in the nation. So our running game's been one of the worst in the nation.
That's not what I wanted to hear, Ethan.
No.
Can we bring some optimism or not yet? We got to go road games.
We're going to go some road game issues in the Jimbo Fisher era. Jimbo Fisher has lost 7 true road games in a row, and then true road games all time in the Jimbo era, 7 and 14. You take away 2020, which, the road crowds.
No, I'm not taking it away. I'm keeping it.
Yeah, but if we did, the road crowds were 25%.
Sure.
We'd be 3 and 13 in true road games. So Jimbo's just not been able to win on the road at A&M.
Can I get a positive before I punch myself in the face?
Yeah, I got one positive for you. Connor Wigman.
Oh, that's the one.
Yeah, he's the guy. He had 365 total yards, 3 touchdowns. 365 total yards is the most by a Texas A&M quarterback against a Power 5 opponent since Kellen Mond in 2018.
378 yards in that one.
Yeah, by Kellen Mond. So, Connor Wigman, great game. He looked amazing despite the pressure.
So if you want optimism, just know they got the quarterback, and usually with the quarterback, that nets results. Ethan, good job, buddy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, let's close it out with a text message or 2. We've got probably time for 1. We got Luke Evangelist at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Luke?
Yeah, David. We've got...
Wow, your voice got deep there, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, David. Hello.
I'm projecting. Neil says, with struggles in the secondary, I keep wondering where is Tony Grimes. From the little I heard and saw from him, he looked good at corner at North Carolina.
Yeah, I think he's battling back. He had some health issues, but when I say health issues, he was a little banged up, but hopefully we'll see him here soon. Luke, thank you, sir. What a great show we had today. The former players, Jordan Pugh and Jamie McCoy, were fantastic. Jamie Morrison doing great things with the volleyball program. KBTX, Tyler Shaw, Nicole Griffith. They were fun to have on the program as well. Shireen Williams, of course, OB. Tomorrow on the program, we know that Bronny will be here. We also know that John Harris will be here. Got Peter Burns coming with us. And I'm working on some special things as well. That and more. Thanks so much to Sean there and Emily at the mothership, Nick, Luke, of course, all the great people here at TexAgs, Ethan Jones. We have the stats there. We'll see you mañana.